Chapter 1619. Just a moment ago, Qinghu was like the Tiger King descending to the world. But now, he was killed by Li Zongjiu. Hong Long could see everything clearly from afar. Li Zongjiu was too strong. Hong Long could no longer tell what level Li Zongjiu's strength was at. After Li Zongjiu killed Qinghu, two figures quickly flew over from the horizon. He killed Lord Qinghu. Release the signal, one of them said quickly. Even Qinghu was killed. What was there to wait for? They had to report the situation as soon as possible. Release the signal. They had encountered a strong enemy. The other person also reacted and immediately held the signal flare in his hand. Just as he was about to release it, however, he felt a cool breeze blowing over. His body froze on the spot, unable to move. A wave of freezing power came from the inside. His entire body turned into an ice sculpture on the spot. Seeing this, the other person turned around and tried to escape without hesitation. But the moment he tried to escape, Li Zongjiu blocked his way. Trying to run? With a wave of his sword, the person in front of him was instantly turned into an ice sculpture, frozen on the spot. He stood still. After blinking his eyes twice, he lost all signs of life. With a boom, he turned into a soul bean. Li Zongjiu directly put it into his pocket. After killing two people, 4 more came. Obviously, these 4 people were also Qinghu's subordinates. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come so quickly after seeing the situation here. The rest of the people would basically observe the situation first when they saw the situation here and wouldn't rush in rashly. Li Zongjiu started to fight with the 4 people. He continued to kill the 4 of them. Hong Long watched from the side as Li Zongjiu killed everyone. His eyes flashed with disbelief. After all, Li Zongjiu's strength and methods were too admirable. Even the leader of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance was not as ruthless as Li Zongjiu when he was young. As long as he was ruthless enough, it would be fine. Hong Long also rejoiced in his heart. Fortunately, he and Li Zongjiu were partners. At least for now, it seemed that Li Zongjiu was quite reasonable. Otherwise, Qian Yu wouldn't have been able to leave so easily. Li Zongjiu would never let her leave. But when facing the enemy, Li Zongjiu's methods were indeed terrifying. There was no mercy. The Green Tiger group was annihilated. In the Scarlet Soul City, this group of existences that caused people to tremble in fear were actually all annihilated in Li Zongjiu's hands in less than an hour's time. There was no mercy. In fact, no one was able to escape from it. They were all killed. It was truly too exciting. Hong Long was a witness. In fact, until now, Hong Long was already in a state of numbness. There was nothing to be surprised about. Li Zongjiu was so strong. It was normal for him to kill a few people. Moreover, they were all enemies. To Hong Long, this was nothing out of the ordinary. In the valley, the mysterious blood pool altar had already been completed. The blood of these fiendish demons was continuously flowing out and gathering in the surroundings. They were using this sort of power to prove how powerful they were. The blood of the demons gathered. The blood array set up by the 3rd head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance was also completed, causing the demons to bleed non-stop. At the same time, it was also maintaining their lives. They could neither live nor die. When such an extremely evil formation was displayed, it was even more shocking. Why is Qinghu not back yet? The 3rd head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance looked very serious. It was going to be dark soon. Perhaps that fiendish demon would also appear. At such a critical juncture, it had yet to return to the group. Based on the 3rd head's understanding of Qinghu, he knew that the latter would not do such a thing at such a critical time. Something must have happened to Qinghu. Someone had killed Qinghu. It meant that the Heavenly Fiend Alliance had met a strong enemy. Otherwise, ordinary people would not have the guts to do so. Facing the enemies of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance, they would not be soft-hearted. Where is the 2nd head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance? The 3rd head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance asked. The 1st head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance was in seclusion. Ordinary people were not allowed to disturb him. The 3rd head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance was in charge of today's matter. Now that he realized that he did not have enough manpower, he immediately sent a message to the second head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance and asked him to bring people to help. The second head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance set off an hour ago. I think he will be here soon. Narrow the perimeter. Make sure that all our forces are concentrated. Don't let the enemy create any openings. The second head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance said in a deep voice. This was a very serious matter. An ant's hole could destroy a 1,000-mile dike. If the enemy succeeded in a sneak attack, it was obvious that this mission would be ruined. Even this mission would be ruined by the enemy. Yes, third head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance. The number of experts from the Heavenly Fiend Alliance in the vicinity had increased to about 60 people. They eliminated some who were on the way, some who were in disguise, and some who were sacrificed in the battle. This time, the Heavenly Fiend Alliance had sent at least 100 people. At least 30% of them were experts in the Khanate realm. The remaining experts in the postnatal realm were not weak. They had sent so many experts over. If something went wrong, it would cause all their efforts to be in vain. The third head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance would definitely go crazy. By then, many people would be in trouble. However, the Heavenly Fiend Alliance was indeed very powerful. They had easily mobilized more than 100 people. If it were other forces, it would be considered very good if they could gather 6 or 7 people. Night was approaching. The third head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance was very nervous. This was because this treasure in the underground palace was too important. He wanted to get this treasure in the underground palace very much. This was why the third head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance was so nervous and eager. He had to complete this mission no matter what. Li Zongjio brought Hong Long to the vicinity of the canyon. He could even see that there were people patrolling around. Li Zongjio knew that this area must be the core area of the enemy. The qi and blood in front of him were extremely strong. It was obvious that this was the place where the enemy had set up the array. However, Li Zongjio did not continue to move forward. Let's rest here. If we rush forward now, we will alert the enemy. Li Zongjio looked at the surrounding terrain. It was easy to defend and hard to attack. If they rushed in recklessly, they would definitely be surrounded and attacked by the enemy. Li Zongjio's main mission here was not to kill, but to get the treasure in the underground palace. Li Zongjio was very interested in such a powerful treasure. If this was the Xingwu continent, with so many experts in the Khanate realm, it would be an earth-shattering battle for the treasure. Chapter 1620. However, it was obvious that in this great world, this was just an extremely simple battle. Experts from all walks of life had gathered. However, in reality, they were just being used as pawns. It was more or less the same. After all, they were at a different level from before. Even if Li Zongjio was here, he would at most be a slightly stronger person. It was still too early for him to crush all the heroes. At least, he had to enter the heaven realm to be considered as having a foothold in the great world. Li Zongjio was very clear about this. He had to do everything himself. Even with his current strength, he could not be too arrogant. At least, when facing the main experts from the Heavenly Fiend Alliance who were about to arrive, Li Zongjio could not kill them directly. If that was the case, he might be besieged and killed by the many experts. Even if he wanted to escape, it would not be an easy task. Usually, when Li Zongjio was confident, he would directly kill the other party. However, if he was not confident, he would not dare to do such an arrogant thing. It was better for him to keep a low profile. This was the best choice. Hong Long also noticed Li Zongjio's point. When it was time to be high profile, he would be high profile. Because those people were no match for him, it was fine to kill them. However, when it was time to keep a low profile and admit defeat, he would not feel embarrassed at all. He would admit defeat directly and keep a low profile. It was as if he was hiding here and waiting for an opportunity. In the process of waiting, the two of them held their breaths and did not say a word. This was the only way to ensure that their auras would not be discovered by others. Now, the experts from the Heavenly Fiend Alliance were all patrolling the surroundings. Once they discovered any movement, they would definitely appear and attack. They would definitely not leave any hidden dangers. Moreover, the news of Qinghu's death should have already spread. Once it was confirmed, they would definitely double their vigilance. Nightfall. Li Zongjiao and Hong Long waited. There seemed to be some extremely wretched cries of demons in the surroundings as well. Soon after, there were traces of a group of demons near the blood pool. The third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance was also in position. They wanted the items in the hands of these demons, but these demons also wanted their heads. What would it do to itself after swallowing these people alive? His cultivation would also be greatly improved. That was exactly the case. That was why these demons were so unscrupulous in attacking human experts. Both sides were taking what they needed. The strength of demons who ate humans would greatly increase. It seemed to be a reward given to them by the heavens. It was also a characteristic given to them that allowed them to possess such powerful strength. Be careful. Waves of battle could be felt from afar. Li Zongjiao's eyes also flashed with surprise. This battle seemed to be particularly intense. The pool of blood that the other party had created had obviously attracted a large number of fiendish demons with the intention of killing everyone here. Boom! The fiendish demons caused a huge commotion. There were even 2 or 3 of them. How dare they? They charged towards Li Zongjiao and Hong Long naturally. This was also an act of suicide. Hence, Li Zongjiao also directly killed these demons. The battle in the canyon was especially intense. It seemed to be a battle between humans and demons. The experts of the Sky Fiend Alliance were also experts in long-range attacks. The barrage of attacks came one after another. The demons only knew how to fight in close range. There were hundreds of experts in the Sky Fiend Alliance. As for the demons, there were already more than 30 of them gathered. At the same time, the third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance had already discovered that there seemed to be a person who seemed to be shorter in the middle of this group of demons. Moreover, he was like the brains of this group of fiendish demons, constantly giving orders to these fiendish demons. Although he could not see clearly, he could vaguely see that this guy seemed to have a bronze ring in his hand. The bronze ring was faintly glowing. This made the latter's intelligence seem to have increased at this moment. Hence, he was able to command these demons in front of him. That one, that rat-headed demon, we must not let him escape. Mark him. The third head also shouted directly. Immediately, there were experts behind him who continuously shot out sharp arrows. These arrows flew towards him. Tracking arrows. Once one was shot, the unique aura would remain in one's body and it would be difficult to remove it in a short period of time. Hence, this thing was also very useful. Most of the tracking arrows were blocked by the demons beside him. However, in the chaos, there was still someone who shot the arrow in his hand at the latter. Instantly, the arrow was shot at his body. It was also quite accurate. The rat-headed demon screamed and pulled out the arrow from his body. However, in reality, the tracking effect had already been left in the rat-headed demon's body. After feeling the pain, the rat-headed demon also knew that the group of demons under him would not be able to defeat the experts in front of him. Immediately, he ordered a few of the stronger demons around him to protect him and leave. However, the remaining demons charged towards the Sky Fiend Alliance experts without any regard for their lives. A great battle was about to break out. The battle was extremely fierce. The sounds of battle coming one after another also had a rather intense effect on the area. Rumble. The third head saw the rat-headed demon and actually fled. He immediately counted 10 people and chased after him. These 10 people were all innate level 7 experts. In addition, the third head himself was a level 8 innate. With such a lineup, they were able to move freely among any group of fiendish demons and kill them effortlessly. After the third head chased after them with his men, Li Zongjiao, who was hiding in the first place, also moved. When the battle broke out, he had groped his way to this place. He had to chase after them. If he missed them, it would be difficult to find them again. If these people obtained the treasures, they would definitely find the right direction and leave immediately. Hence, this was the only time he could seize the opportunity. Hong Long also tried his best to catch up. However, Li Zongjiao and the rest were too fast and it was very difficult for Hong Long to keep up. They entered an extremely dark forest in front of them. The third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance's heart sank slightly. The changes in the surroundings seemed to be a little strange. He kept feeling that something was wrong. However, when the third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance reacted, it was already a little too late. It turned out that the demons had set up an ambush here. More than 20 fiendish demons had actually surrounded the third leader of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance and the others from all directions. These demons still have brains. The third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance exclaimed in disbelief. Although this method was very crude, it was still very effective. It directly caused these people to fall into a predicament. However, humans were humans after all. In terms of intelligence, these demons could not be compared to humans. Moreover, the strength of this wave of demons was also unable to withstand the combined forces of so many innate level 7 experts. Both sides paid a price. The Sky Fiend Alliance had lost 5 people directly. In addition, one person was seriously injured and had lost the ability to fight. If he was not treated in time, he would lose his life very quickly. On the other hand, there were only 3 demons left on the side of the demons. The rat-headed demon was one of them. As for the remaining 2 demons, they were both innate level 7 experts. These 2 fiendish demons were capable of taking away at least 1 life. Spare no effort, kill. The third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance roared in a low voice. They had already lost so many experts, all the more they could not let the latter escape. This rat-headed demon seemed to want to escape again. Both sides were in a stalemate for a moment before they attacked again. Both sides collided with each other. It was earth-shattering. Finally, the 2 demons joined forces and seriously injured one of the innate level 7 experts. The third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance also used all his strength and tore these 2 demons into pieces. Die! The third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance thrust the long spear in his hand towards the rat-headed demon. The rat-headed demon seemed to be at a loss of what to do. It stood rooted to the ground, waiting for death to come. At this moment, there seemed to be countless hidden weapons flying horizontally like a curtain of rain. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. One after another, they rushed out. The third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance could not help but retreat. There were only 3 experts left behind and they hurriedly came forward to block. They blocked the rain of hidden weapons. Who are you? How dare you steal from the Sky Fiend Alliance? Do you want to die? The third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance shouted angrily. Li Zongjiao and Hong Long also looked into the distance. There seemed to be people waiting in the forest. A total of 6 people appeared. The leader was the leader of the Thousand Moon sect, who had done business with Li Zongjiao previously. The people behind the leader of the Thousand Moon sect were all experts in hidden weapons. The round of hidden weapons just now had already made them badly battered. Although they had blocked many of the hidden weapons, many of them had hit their bodies. If not for the armor they were wearing, their bodies would have been pierced through. It's you? The third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance was stunned when he saw the person who had appeared. Then, his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Chen Yu, how dare you go against the Sky Fiend Alliance? Get out of my way quickly. Otherwise, I won't even give face to Commander Wan Fei. The third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance said coldly. At this moment, Chen Yu's subordinates had already caught the rat-headed demon with the net that was covered with talismans. Third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance, you're wrong. We accepted the City Lord's mission to kill demons. Along the way, we encountered a demon that attacked us. We just caught it. How could we block the path of the Sky Fiend Alliance? Chen Yu had the support of many experts behind him. He saw that the Sky Fiend Alliance in front of him had also suffered heavy losses. Hence, he said nonchalantly, it was a good opportunity to bicker with them. However, Chen Yu also knew that he could not delay any longer. Things would change if he delayed. He had to end the battle quickly. Hence, he had to leave before these people called for help. Stop pretending. Since you're not willing to hand over the item, then we're going against the Sky Fiend Alliance. That would be making an enemy out of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance. So what if they have more people? The third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance bellowed. After all, he was a level 8 innate expert. Just by relying on his own strength, he was already able to crush the other party's aura. There was nothing to be afraid of about this. Behind them? With so many experts working together, could they not stop these women? In front of such a precious treasure. The third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance did not care about Qian Yu's identity anymore. Kill him first. Attack! Qian Yu saw through their intentions and immediately shouted in a low voice. The 6 people behind him seemed to have set up a powerful array. In the array, the 6 of them turned into Sky Fiends. They set up an inescapable net. They wanted to stop the people in front of them. But unfortunately, the third head of the Sky Fiend Alliance threw out a talisman. Li Zongjio saw the talisman from afar and his expression changed. He pulled Hong Long, who did not know what was going on, and instantly retreated. Boom! With a loud sound, the earth shook. Chapter 1621. Li Zongjio had already predicted the power of the talisman's explosion. Therefore, when this figure flew out, it could be said that it had avoided the power of the explosion without any danger. The entire mountain had been razed to the ground. Even the third master felt like he had overexerted himself. On Qian Yu's side, aside from Qian Yu and a woman, the rest of the people had been blasted into soul beams by the explosion just now. Qian Yu had used an extremely precious protective item to avoid the same fate. However, he was only able to protect one of them. That move just now was equivalent to the attack of a Sky Realm expert. Li Zongjio's eyes flashed with shock. After all, that move was too powerful. If he hadn't dodged in time, what would have happened? He would have been swept up in the explosion. It could even be seen that some of the people lying in ambush were also easily killed by the explosion just now. I almost died. That should be the Thunder Fate Talisman. I heard that one costs tens of thousands of soul beans. These people are really willing to part with it. Tens of thousands of soul beans. Li Zongjio wanted to get 2 of them to protect himself. However, when he heard how expensive it was, he decided against it. Wouldn't it be better to use these tens of thousands of soul beans to increase his strength? Stay here and don't move. As the saying goes, wealth comes from danger. It seemed like this was the best time to make a move. Therefore, Li Zongjio didn't have any intention of waiting. His body moved horizontally. Although there were people from both sides who had survived the explosion, they were all in a daze. However, they were also in a dizzy state and temporarily unable to use their strength. Therefore, Li Zongjio quickly made his move. However, Li Zongjio didn't attack the rat-headed demon. Instead, he killed the injured experts from the vile Heavenly Fiend Alliance first. This was the right choice. Qian Yu thought that the 2 of them were dead for sure. The opponent had spent a lot of money to buy a Thunder Fate Talisman. It was beyond what Qian Yu could bear. Furthermore, he had killed all of his capable assistants. Then, the next step would be to kill him first. He wanted to leave, but he couldn't move at all. There weren't many people who dared to go against the Heavenly Fiend Alliance. Hence, it was difficult to find anyone who could make a move in the vicinity. But just when Qian Yu was feeling extremely nervous, she suddenly saw a figure descending from the sky. The attack came from the dark. Holding a long sword, dressed in a black robe, he looked like an emissary from hell. What? When the third head heard the commotion behind him, he immediately turned around and saw a cold glint suddenly flash before his eyes. He didn't even see the other party's figure clearly. The third master felt a chill on his neck. Then blood spurted out. To think that this sword could be so fast. Even after severing his own neck, he was still alive. Before the third master died, Li Zongjio took the storage ring from his hand and broke his finger in an instant. Who are you? The third master's eyes were filled with hatred, regret, unwillingness, and shock. Finally, with a bang, his entire body exploded into a soul beam. Behind the third master, the injured experts were all dealt with by Li Zongjio. Poor third master and the others. If they hadn't been exhausted by these demons, they wouldn't have been able to survive. Facing Qian Yu and the others, they wouldn't have had to resort to such a trick. But these people were too confident in themselves. They definitely thought that they had enough strength left to protect themselves. They didn't expect that there would be someone like Li Zongjio who wasn't afraid of death. Qian Yu also saw Li Zongjio appear. Suddenly, a trace of surprise flashed across her beautiful eyes. Then she looked at Li Zongjio with vigilance. At least now, if Li Zongjio wanted to kill the two of them, it would be a piece of cake. He could do it directly. So now, their lives were directly in Li Zongjio's hands. But Li Zongjio didn't seem to be interested in these people. "Don't worry, I'm not interested in you," Li Zongjio said indifferently. As long as these people didn't do anything stupid, Li Zongjio wouldn't do anything to them. If these people insisted on fighting with him, Li Zongjio wouldn't show any mercy. Then, Li Zongjio carried the severely injured rat-headed demon on his back and took it away. Along the way, he also obtained a talisman spell net. Li Zongjio thought that this thing was very useful, so he wanted to get one. The rat-headed demon didn't die. In the explosion just now, it should have died. But there was a strong force protecting it, so it didn't turn into a soul being. So Li Zongjio took it away. Seeing Li Zongjio's figure disappear, Qian Yu and Qian Yu were shocked. Qian Yu and the last remaining subordinate were also shocked. They stood up and supported each other as they left. Li Zongjio's strength was indeed too overbearing. It was really too scary. He killed the third leader of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance just like that. Just from this round of killing, Li Zongjio's body. The Heavenly Fiend Alliance's hatred was definitely not small. Those who dared to do such a thing were either experts or lunatics. "Leader, who is this person?" The female expert beside him looked at Li Zongjio. He seemed to be acquainted with Qian Yu. Li Zongjio was so strong. He had appeared out of nowhere and killed all these people, swaggering away with the rat-headed demon. Li Zongjio didn't attack them. However, the two of them also believed that if Li Zongjio had the slightest bit of hostility, he would not hesitate to kill the two of them. "He saved me once before. He seems to have a grudge against the Heavenly Fiend Alliance. I don't know who he is." Qian Yu shook her head. She didn't know much about this expert who suddenly appeared. But when she thought about how Li Zongjio made fun of Wu Fu and the others, she felt that something was wrong. This person seemed to have an evil aura around him. People couldn't help but look at him. They were unconsciously attracted by his aura. "Let's leave this place quickly," Qian Yu said. If the people from the Heavenly Fiend Alliance had seen such a huge explosion, they would definitely rush over to investigate. In such a state, if someone came to surround them, they wouldn't be so lucky. "Okay." The two of them swallowed an elixir to recover their strength. Then he quickly left the mountaintop. As for the rat-headed demon, they didn't dare to think about it anymore. Although Li Zongjio had killed the third leader of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance, he had taken advantage of their precarious situation. But to be able to do it so cleanly, it was definitely not something an ordinary person could do. A skinny camel is bigger than a horse. Even if the opponent was weak, it was impossible for an ordinary person to get close to him. Qian Yu had seen Li Zongjio's strength. She didn't even know if Li Zongjio's true strength was the real deal. He must be hiding some other strength. So she had to be careful when dealing with such an expert. She didn't want to provoke him. She didn't know the identity and background of this expert. As for the Heavenly Fiend Alliance, Qian Yu naturally had the strength to contend with them, so they could compete with each other. But for a mysterious expert like Li Zongjio, she had to be careful. She had to be on guard. Li Zongjio caught the rat-headed demon. Then he came to Hong Long. No matter what, he had to take Hong Long away. "What did you do? What is this? Don't tell me it's that demon." Hong Long saw Li Zongjio go and come back so quickly. She didn't know what Li Zongjio was doing. But when she saw the demon in Li Zongjio's hand, when this rat-headed demon was in his hand, she could roughly guess what Li Zongjio was doing just now. "Let's go." The two of them headed straight to a place where there were few people. At least they had to avoid these demons. This rat-headed demon had the ability to command other demons. So Li Zongjio had to be careful. He had seen the strength of demons. They were indeed very powerful and difficult to deal with. If they were surrounded, it would be extremely difficult to break out with Hong Long. In fact, if Li Zongjio didn't launch a sneak attack, but fought the third leader of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance head-on, he would have to pay a price to win. At this time, it was basically a matter of whether you dared to do it or not. If you dared to do it, it was equivalent to winning half of the battle. If you didn't dare to do it, you would lose this opportunity forever. Li Zongjio found a cave and threw the rat-headed demon on the ground. The latter was trapped under the talisman net and was seriously injured. It only had one breath left and was on the verge of death. But in the rat-headed demon's hand, there was a bronze ring that was shining. It seemed to be the bronze ring that was prolonging the rat-headed demon's life. This must be the treasure in the underground palace. Li Zongjio looked and then cut off the rat-headed demon's hand with his sword. Ding dong! The bronze ring fell to the ground. Its light also gradually dimmed. What Dharma treasure is this? Li Zongjio looked at Hong Long. He seemed to know that Hong Long should recognize this bronze ring Dharma treasure. Can I pick it up and take a look? Hong Long asked. Sure. Li Zongjio nodded. He wasn't worried that Hong Long would take it away. Hong Long carefully held the bronze ring in his hands. He looked at it carefully. When he saw a mark clearly, his pupils shrank and he instinctively sucked in a breath of cold air. Distracted divine ring. Although Li Zongjio felt that the bronze ring in his hand was very powerful, he didn't know how powerful it was. When he saw Hong Long's expression, he couldn't help but wonder. He knew that this thing was incredible. He really did get a treasure. Chapter 1622. What is the spirit-splitting ring? Li Zongjio asked. It took Hong Long a long time before he gradually suppressed his surprise. This thing is called the spirit-splitting ring. It has 3 abilities: demon sealing, formless, and spirit-refining doppelganger. Demon sealing, formless, spirit-refining doppelganger? Li Zongjio wasn't an ordinary person. Just by looking at the names, he could roughly guess the power of the bronze bracelet in his hand. Demon sealing and devil sealing means that the amorphous hoop can greatly enhance the offensive attributes of demons and devils. Shapeless and amorphous means that it doesn't have any fixed form and can change and imitate at will. And the most important thing is the spirit-refining doppelganger. It can help you refine your own Dao doppelganger in advance. Hong Long said. It was like a manual explaining the magic treasure in his hand. At the same time, he also returned the spirit-splitting ring to Li Zongjio. Obviously, Hong Long also knew that although this thing was very tempting, it was not worth it. Even if he did not use it himself, he only needed to sell it to get millions of soul beans. There were countless experts who would scramble for such a treasure like a flock of ducks. If they wanted to cultivate their own Dao doppelganger, they had to be at least at the Lord of Heaven realm. But it was easier said than done to cultivate to the Lord of Heaven realm. Even the current master of Red Soul City had not reached the Lord of Heaven realm. If he could reach the Lord of Heaven realm, it was said that he could freely enter this big world. The appearance of this big world was also called the doppelganger training field. The experts in the outside world all put their doppelganger here to train, so it was very likely that you would see a Hotian realm expert. But in fact, it was only one of his doppelganger. The real body with more powerful strength was outside this big world. If you were to offend such a person, the consequences would be very terrifying. The trouble that he had provoked was definitely not something that could be settled so easily. Once these Lord of Heaven realm experts came to find trouble with you, then no matter how powerful you were, you would definitely die. After all, it was yours. You only had one life. However, Heaven Monarch realm experts were able to create their own incarnation power, which was equivalent to having countless lives. After some careful consideration, Li Zongjio understood the value of the mind-splitting ring in his hand. It was no wonder that the people from Sky Fiend Alliance were so interested in it. No matter what price they had to pay, they had to get their hands on it. Such a treasure was actually brought out by a mere demon from the underground palace. Perhaps this was the charm of this cruel world. Even if you obtained something by chance, it could directly bring you to a higher level of life and cultivation. This was an extremely enviable thing. There were even fortuitous encounters happening here every day. This great world was simply too big. Moreover, it had existed for an unknown period of time. The number of experts that had been born from it was simply too many to count. If the Heavenly Fiend Alliance were to come to the St. Martial continent, they could easily destroy the Dragon Island. No matter what race it was, they would be completely annihilated. This was the strength of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance. However, in this place, the Heavenly Fiend Alliance was merely a slightly superior wild force. Against a regular army like the City Lord's mansion, they would basically be wiped out in an instant. This item needs to be refined with blood, Hong Long said. Although he wanted to get his hands on the mind-splitting ring in Li Zongjiu's hands, Hong Long clearly knew that with his strength, it was impossible for him to snatch it. Even if he really got his hands on it, with his strength, he would definitely not be able to protect it. Just as Li Zongjiu was about to use his blood to refine it. Suddenly, an extremely strong wave of energy came from outside the cave. Li Zongjiu instantly kept the mind-splitting ring in his hands. At the same time, he pushed Hong Long into the depths of the cave. Boom! The entire cave was instantly shattered. It directly suppressed Li Zongjiu within. However, very quickly, Li Zongjiu's body was also hit by the stones that fell on it. It was instantly shattered. They came so quickly. Li Zongjiu's eyes flashed with a cold light. Of course, Li Zongjiu knew that the other party's actions were so direct. It must be an expert from the Heavenly Fiend Alliance. He guessed that Yu Tuo's tracking signal was on this demon. That was why the other party was able to find him so quickly. When Li Zongjiu rushed out of the rubble ruins, he saw 3 silhouettes standing in the air. When the 3 of them saw Li Zongjiu take the initiative to show himself, the corners of their mouths curled up into a cold smile. The person who came was the second head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance. The 2 people behind him were the second head's left and right hands. After receiving the news, the 3 of them were on their way here. However, they did not expect that they were still one step too late. The poor third head had died so tragically. Fortunately, the tracking signal he had left behind was still there. This allowed the second-in-command of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance to find him very easily. Hand over the thing and I can give you a quick death. The second head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance said slowly. Even if he did not need the tracking signal on this demon, he only needed to look at the hatred points on Li Zongjiu to know that there was definitely something wrong with Li Zongjiu. No matter what, he would not let Li Zongjiu go. Giving him a quick death was already the greatest mercy he could give. As for how quick it would be, it was still up to him to decide. Li Zongjiu laughed in disdain when he heard that. You guys are considered lucky? Those few that I killed just now did not even have a chance to speak. Li Zongjiu mocked. His words were too arrogant. What he meant was that when Li Zongjiu attacked, third head and the rest did not even have a chance to speak. The second head's eyes seemed to be filled with murderous intent. If that's the case, then there's nothing more to say. As soon as he finished speaking, the second head and the 2 people beside him attacked at the same time. They charged towards Li Zongjiu to kill him. The 2 people on his left and right seemed to be carrying a gust of wind. In the blink of an eye, this power blocked Li Zongjiu's escape routes, making it impossible for Li Zongjiu to advance or retreat. Both of them were experts among the level 7 innate experts. Their strength was comparable to Li Zongjiu's. If it was before Li Zongjiu had taken the 100 Calamity Elixir, he might have lost his life facing the 2 of them. However, Li Zongjiu was no longer the same as before. The unparalleled sword in his hand suddenly rotated. In an instant, a terrifying sword aura swept towards both sides. 1 ice and 1 fire. Like 2 wild dragons protecting the law, the sword aura swept towards the 2 of them. However, it was broken by the 2 of them. Li Zongjiu had already rushed towards the people in front of him the moment he delayed the other party. He quickly killed the leader of the other party. The sword aura landed. In the blink of an eye, a crazy power burst out. Want to kill me? If it were that easy, this Zhao's head would have long been hung high on the city walls. The second head also sneered. Since Li Zongjiu wanted to die, then he would fulfill his wish. In an instant his figure burst out. In the second head's hand, there was a 9-foot-long saber. He waved the long saber, full of murderous intent, directly towards Li Zongjiu. This made Li Zongjiu extremely wary. Although the saber was ridiculously long, when the saber was waved, it was quite fierce and powerful. It was vigorous and vigorous. Even all kinds of tricky saber techniques were directly aimed at Li Zongjiu. Immediately, Li Zongjiu blocked with his sword. The 2 masters behind him attacked Li Zongjiu at the same time. Li Zongjio had to retreat. After fighting with Li Zongjio for a while with the long saber, the second head also knew how powerful Li Zongjio's ability was. He could not be underestimated. Otherwise, there would be big trouble. Li Zongjio would definitely find an opportunity to severely injure him. However, as long as the three of them joined forces, Li Zongjio would have no chance at all. He could only be defeated step by step. In the end, his fate was very obvious. It was very clear that Li Zongjio himself would have no chance at all. Your strength is not bad, but if the three of us join forces, you will only die. The second head sneered coldly. No wonder the third head died in the few moments of fighting. The powerful strength that Li Zongjio had displayed had already caused the second master to have a lingering fear. If he did not give it his all, he might be injured directly. Moreover, judging from Li Zongjio's fighting style, as long as he had the slightest chance, he would definitely spare no effort to kill you. With this kind of strength, it was indeed necessary to be extra careful and careful. Li Zongjio did not speak, but only touched the tattoo on his finger. Suddenly, a fishy wind blew. The poisonous dragon Aotion appeared. The strength of a level 8 innate was released continuously. Powerful energy continued to permeate the air. Rumble. After Aotion appeared, a slight flap of his wings was able to release an extremely strong aura. After that, Aotion quickly rushed towards the second head. Both of them were level 8 innate, and they were in a stalemate. Li Zongjio also needed to wait for an opportunity. He charged towards the two left and right hands. The sudden appearance of the poisonous dragon Aotion also gave them a strong pressure. Suddenly, the three of them frantically retreated, and their strength exploded. However, Li Zongjio had already locked onto one of them. This person could not escape from Li Zongjio's attack. In the end, he also charged towards Li Zongjio. "Hold that guy back, I will help you after I kill this dragon." The second head roared. The appearance of the poisonous dragon Aotion gave them too much pressure. They had no choice but to join forces to block Aotion's attack. Boom! Li Zongjio pointed his matchless sword towards the head of the person in front of him. The other party also threw a pair of iron fists towards Li Zongjio. Bang bang! Buddha's palm. Mountain flipping golden seal. All of a sudden, Li Zongjio also threw away his sword. The matchless sword attacked automatically. It forced the other party to retreat. At the same time, Li Zongjio's palms were constantly forming seals, and waves of strength were thrown towards the person in front of him. World-shocking divine fist. The other party's fists also landed on Li Zongjio's body without any restraint. It turned out that both sides were using this kind of head-on fighting method to injure each other. However, the result was very obvious. Half of the other party's body was directly smashed by Li Zongjio. The matchless sword flashed and pierced through the other party's head, although the other party's fists landed on Li Zongjio's body. However, all the attack power was absorbed by Li Zongjio's heaven virtual divine form record. Chapter 1623. In the blink of an eye, he killed a person? The second head in charge and the other expert who was entangled by the poison dragon in the distance also trembled when they saw this scene. The two of them were furious. Although the three of them were subordinates, they had been good friends for many years. And now, he was actually killed right before their very eyes. How could they tolerate this? With a furious roar, the two of them unleashed their yuan qi in a frenzy. It was as if a violent gust of wind was blowing. The surrounding trees were all uprooted. They formed a strong force and smashed towards the poison dragon. Bam! The poison dragon was hit. He was in so much pain that he cried out. However, the poison dragon opened his mouth and turned into a poison arrow. The person in front of him couldn't dodge it in time. He was in such a sorry state. However, the two of them couldn't break through Aotion's blockade. Finally, Li Zongjio arrived and landed on Aotion's head. At the same time, the sword in his hand gradually released a terrifying aura. A man and a dragon cooperated with each other. After a series of battles, the second head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance couldn't take it anymore. He turned around and ran. He ran far away. Boom! The person who was left behind was drenched in the poison dragon's poison. He looked like a pile of mud. It didn't last long. The second person was poisoned to death. However, there were some wounds on Aotion's body. There were even some wounds that looked a little ghastly on their own. With the wounds on my body, I need at least 1 or 2,000 soul beans to heal my wounds. Aotion opened his dragon claws in front of Li Zongjio. The battle was for Li Zongjio. Now that he was injured, it was normal for him to ask for some compensation. Only after the compensation could he heal his wounds. After all, the healing effect of soul beans was very good. Li Zongjio wasn't stingy in this aspect. He gave the poison dragon 1,500 soul beans. The guy smiled and shrunk back. Li Zongjio did not chase after the second-in-command of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance who had escaped. Firstly, they couldn't catch up. Secondly, after testing the waters, these people already knew that Li Zongjio was not to be trifled with. The most important thing was to make these people more obedient in the future. After knowing how powerful Li Zongjio was, he had to think twice before making a move. For them, this was equivalent to stepping on a nail. Naturally, there was nothing they could do about it. After all, Li Zongjio had also taken a fancy to what they wanted. In the end, they had no choice but to end up like this. Hong Long saw this scene from afar. Naturally, he was quite clear in his heart. Li Zongjio was really too powerful. Almost no one could resist Li Zongjio. The rat-headed demon was severely injured. Li Zongjio did not kill it directly. Instead, he left it where it was. At least it could help attract the attention of the other experts from the Heavenly Fiend Alliance. One had to know that there were hundreds of people from the Heavenly Fiend Alliance in the valley. If these people gathered together, even Li Zongjio and the poison dragon Aotion would have to leave quickly. Only by running far away could they ensure their own safety. There was no doubt about this. It was very dangerous to deal with so many people. They were outnumbered. Even if the opponent released the lightning talisman. If Li Zongjio got too close, there was a chance that he would be killed by the thunder talisman of destiny. Li Zongjio had no doubt about this. Although he was confident, he was not arrogant. In some situations where he couldn't win, he had to keep a low profile. However, he could not be complacent just because he had won 2 rounds. If that happened, the outcome would be very painful. Li Zongjio and Hong Long continued to search for another place. At this place, they directly used a drop of blood to refine the indefinite hoop in their hands. After refining the indefinite hoop, it naturally could not run away. It could not be taken away by others. Even Li Zongjio could use the indefinite hoop earlier. After the indefinite hoop and Li Zongjio established a connection. Li Zongjio also felt that there seemed to be something extra in his mind. Something else. It was the indefinite hoop that appeared directly in his mind space. At the same time, Li Zongjio's mind power was constantly being absorbed by the indefinite hoop. Immediately, Li Zongjio was surprised to find that his mind power was also condensing and pouring into the indefinite hoop. It seemed like it was trying to condense. However, this power was not successful. It was only a small part. After all, Li Zongjio's mind power was not strong enough. Only when the mind power in it was condensed to a certain extent, could it give birth to the power of an avatar. So far, there was no way to condense the power of the Great Path avatar. Besides that, the indefinite hoop in his hand could carry a murderous aura, which was obviously targeted at the power of these demons. This kind of power could be integrated into the sword chi at Li Zongjio's command. It was very convenient. The indefinite hoop directly turned into a small ring and fell on Li Zongjio's finger. This is the indefinite hoop. It can actually increase the mind power. Li Zongjio also noticed this. In the past, when Li Zongjio used the white god Fu, it could also increase his mind power. However, it could not be used now. The power of the white god Fu could not drive him, and there was no special effect. As for the indefinite hoop, if necessary, it could be added to the mind power and be used directly. It could increase Li Zongjio's mind power to a certain extent. Hong Long was also very emotional. He did not expect this thing to fall into Li Zongjio's hands. It was very unexpected. Moreover, it was snatched from the Heavenly Fiend Alliance. This was no different from snatching food from the tiger's mouth. Only Li Zongjio had such courage and strength. Although the Thousand Moon Sect Master and the others wanted to, they were not strong enough. In fact, if Li Zongjio had not attacked and killed the third head of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance, they would not have been able to escape. Qian Yu and the others might not have been able to escape. After using the Lightning Talisman of Destiny and paying such a huge price, how could he let them leave so easily? Let's go. Li Zongjio only used half a day to refine it. Then, he looked at the sky and saw that it had turned dark again. Where are we going? Honglong asked. Normally, after a person obtained such a treasure, they would find a place to hide until their strength increased. Then, they would reappear in the Jianghu to intimidate the heroes or make a fortune in secret. If he were to walk around with this treasure, he would only invite death upon himself. The mission that we accepted before? I am very curious as to what the rewards of the City Lord's mansion will be. Li Zongjio would not let go of any opportunity to increase his strength. Moreover, he already had a basic understanding of the surrounding situation. The mission of killing the demons was not over yet. Therefore, Li Zongjio had to stay and continue killing demons. Do you still kill demons? In Honglong's opinion, even if he killed 100 or 1,000 demons, it would not be comparable to the indefinite hoop in his hands. Chapter 1624. Li Zongjio and Honglong entered the forest once again. Since this doppelganger ring can imitate anything, I wonder if it can imitate the unparalleled sword. Li Zongjio thought to himself. Just as this thought popped up in his mind, the doppelganger ring in his hand turned into the unparalleled sword with a swoosh. In terms of its aura, it could even pass off as the real thing. It looked no different from the real unparalleled sword. It's really powerful. Li Zongjio tried to swing the unparalleled sword that was transformed by the doppelganger ring in his hand. Immediately, the sword chi was released continuously. The sword in his hand released a slight fluctuation. It was unusually powerful. This thing is really powerful. The doppelganger ring was at least an immortal weapon. Li Zongjio thought to himself. Due to the help of the Black Sea Lord, the unparalleled sword had a heart of the Azure Sea. Therefore, the unparalleled sword itself had been upgraded. It could be considered as a half-step immortal weapon now. It could only wait until Huo Wushuang's strength broke through to the heaven realm. Naturally, it could become an immortal weapon. Similarly, if the unparalleled sword broke through to the immortal weapon realm, Huo Wushuang would naturally break through to the heaven realm. The two complemented each other. If Li Zongjio had the ability to upgrade the unparalleled sword, Huo Wushuang might be able to appear here. He did not expect the doppelganger ring to be able to imitate the unparalleled sword, a half-step immortal weapon. This was much more convenient. After all, the quality of the doppelganger ring was above that of the unparalleled sword. If the unparalleled sword was damaged in a battle, it would be an extremely dangerous thing. Huo Wushuang would definitely be severely injured. Nightfall. The groups of demons seemed to be continuing their operations. These fiendish demons appeared in groups. There was a huge number of them and their strength was shocking. In addition, the Heavenly Fiend Alliance had retreated during this period of time. Therefore, some of the freelance hunters found an opportunity to come and fight against the demons. After all, if they could kill these gray demons, they would be rewarded by the City Lord. This was also very tempting for them. In addition, according to the rumors, there was a demon with the treasure of the underground palace. Although the first one might have fallen into the hands of the Sky Fiend Alliance, who could guarantee that there would not be a second one? Since they were in the big world, nothing was impossible. Immediately, these people quickly showed themselves. At night, they hurriedly fought with the demons. Killing demons. Li Zongjio and Honglong were also rapidly shuttling through the forest. There were still quite a number of demons who weren't weak. However, they couldn't withstand too many moves from Li Zongjio. By now, Li Zongjio had gotten used to fighting at this level. After all, he had even fought with an innate level 7 expert. What else was there to say? As long as Li Zongjio did not encounter a level 8 innate, or even a level 9 and 8, he would be able to kill them quickly. Just as Li Zongjio was doing his best to slay the fiendish demons, something happened. The only second leader of the Sky Fiend Alliance who managed to escape did not make it back to Red Spirit City alive. On the way back, he met a small hunting team who had left the city to hunt. When they saw the severely injured second leader of the Sky Fiend Alliance, they couldn't believe it. How could there be such a good thing? The Sky Fiend Alliance had many enemies. However, the reason why these leaders were still alive was because they were powerful. Now that he was severely injured, there were no experts around him to protect him. He was easily killed by this group of hunters. The second leader of the Sky Fiend Alliance would never have imagined that he would be ambushed on the way back. He was killed mercilessly just like that. This was the cruel rule of the big world. Anyone could easily disappear from this world. No matter what your identity or position was, as long as there was a chance, you would be killed. Anyone could die. Only after one had truly grasped the power could one ensure one's own life. However, the actions of this group of people also allowed Li Zongjio to be in a safer environment. After all, Li Zongjio had already shown his face in front of the second leader of the Sky Fiend Alliance. When the second leader returned, he would definitely post Li Zongjio's portrait everywhere and use the power of the Sky Fiend Alliance to find Li Zongjio. After all, Li Zongjio had the indefinite ring. This was true. If the Sky Fiend Alliance could not get it, they would definitely not let it fall into Li Zongjio's hands so easily. However, he did not expect to be killed on the way back. Even if he wanted to go back and report, it was impossible. The pitiful second leader of the Sky Fiend Alliance was a well-known figure in Red Spirit City. However, he did not expect to end up in such a state. As for the Thousand Moon Sect Master, who had secretly returned to the city, naturally she would not expose Li Zongjio's secret so easily. After all, Li Zongjio could be said to have saved her twice. An enemy's enemy was also a friend. Perhaps Li Zongjio would become a secret weapon used by the Thousand Moon Sect to deal with the Sky Fiend Alliance. This time, it could be said that she had missed out on this treasure by a long shot. The Thousand Moon Sect Master could sense that this item was probably not suitable for her. If she continued to force it, there would definitely be problems. This was not because she was afraid. Instead, it had a lot to do with the great path that the Thousand Moon Sect Master cultivated. After experiencing a few crises, she understood that this item was not something that she could possess. If she forced it, it would only bring disaster. In the forest, Li Zongjio used the rune net in his hand to kill close to 30 demons. At this time, he had already encountered an extremely elite team. This team's strength was not inferior at all. They were all innate level 6 experts. Clearly, they were very experienced in hunting demons. We are very interested in the sword in your hand. Leave the sword behind and you can leave. The 5 of them surrounded Li Zongjio. This was because the unparalleled sword in Li Zongjio's hand was transformed from the indefinite ring. Moreover, it had the additional attribute of slaying demons. Therefore, with one strike of the sword, the fighting strength of these demons would rapidly decrease. It was precisely because they had their eyes on the sword in Li Zongjio's hand that this team of experts was prepared to snatch the sword away from him. They were experts in slaying demons. Now that they saw the weapon in Li Zongjio's hand, they wanted to obtain it even more. "You want my sword?" Li Zongjio looked at the people in front of him. Then he said slowly, "You'd better think carefully. If you leave now, it's still not too late." Even Li Zongjio did not know where these people's confidence came from. At the same time, the group of people in front of him was extremely surprised by Li Zongjio's confidence. "Looks like you're very confident. I've resumed the update. Sorry for the long wait. I'll update properly." Chapter 1625. There was obvious mockery in the eyes of the 5 people. They looked at Li Zongjio and Hong Long. It was like a rabbit surrounded by a group of eagles. There was nowhere to run. It was better to be obedient. At least he could stay here happily. Hong Long knew Li Zongjio's strength. Therefore, in his heart, he was not worried about not being able to escape at all. However, these people's strength was obviously not weak, so he also needed to protect himself. Otherwise, if Li Zongjio was not careful and did not see him, he would be in trouble. After all, he was not as strong as Li Zongjio. Since you don't want to call him out, there's no point in talking. Let's do it. At the command, everyone started to move. In an instant, the 5 people's attacks were like a thunderbolt. They directly rushed towards Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio also rushed towards them with the unparalleled sword, which was transformed from the amorphous ring. 1 against 5. Soon, these people realized that Li Zongjio's strength was above theirs. If this continued, they would be defeated by Li Zongjio. Release the tiger tally, the leader of the other party said. 2 of them took out a pair of tokens and put them together. Instantly, the tokens in their hands released light. A strong wave was released from the tiger tally. All of a sudden, Li Zongjio felt a very familiar fluctuation. Then he saw a fallen tribe's tiger-headed warlord appear in front of him. It seemed to be summoned from the tiger tally. Boom! The tiger-headed warlord landed on the ground and immediately released a terrifying wave. It held a pair of warhammers in both hands. Li Zongjio was completely shocked. Logically speaking, the fallen clan should not have been wiped out. Even their own beast god temple should have been destroyed by the ape clan's experts. But now, there was another powerhouse from the fallen race. Li Zongjio was also very familiar with his aura. However, Li Zongjio soon felt relieved. There was nothing strange about this. Naturally, there were many things that could happen here. Even many things that were impossible could happen here. Therefore, it was not strange to see a tiger-head general of the fallen race in front of him. In comparison, the tiger-headed general in front of him seemed to have a purer bloodline. I didn't expect to meet an old rival. It does feel a little surreal. Li Zongjio chuckled. What old opponent? This is a fallen tiger talisman. It can summon a fallen general. With this, it seems like he's already at innate level 8. Hong Long could not believe that Li Zongjio could still laugh. What was the situation in front of him? He had to kill this guy quickly. I heard that the warlord summoned by the fallen tiger talisman will not rest until he's dead. He can even chase you to the ends of the earth. If he doesn't kill you, he'll definitely not rest. Hong Long could not help but say, "Leave it to me." Li Zongjio sneered. He could say that he had fought with the fallen race before. His opponent's fallen battle chi happened to be restrained by his chaotic energy. If it were someone else, they might really be beaten down by the fallen clan's tiger-headed warlord. But when facing Li Zongjio, these guys had no chance. The fallen battle chi of my tiger-headed warlord is enough to restrain any origin energy. The team in front of him seemed to be very confident in their tiger-headed warlord. Li Zongjio used his mind to turn the indefinite ring into a ring. After putting it on, his figure flashed and he quickly charged towards the tiger-headed warlord. When this figure appeared, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. The tiger-headed warlord also charged towards him. Its aura shook the sky. The power that appeared on its arms seemed to be able to easily overturn a mountain. The tiger-headed warlord roared and smashed its twin hammers towards Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio also raised his hands abruptly. Boom! His hands grasped the falling hammers tightly. What? That kid can actually withstand the hammers? When the pair of hammers fell, the force behind them was at least tens of millions of tons. Even a level 9 innate realm expert might not be able to withstand it. The tiger-headed warlord was their trump card. Unexpectedly, it did not seem to be able to affect Li Zongjio at all. Li Zongjio's chaotic power erupted. Then, he directly threw the hammers to the side. His fist was already smashing towards the tiger-headed warlord's head. Boom! The tiger-headed warlord was pushed back more than 10 steps. His footsteps suddenly stopped. Then, the tiger-headed warlord's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Although he was sealed in the tiger tally, he still had his own intelligence and thoughts. It was just that this thought was not so strong. As a member of the fallen clan, it was very humiliating to be pushed back by a human's fist. After feeling humiliated, the tiger-headed warlord's combat power instantly surged. A series of heavy punches rained down on Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio also used his body movement to dodge some of the attacks. However, when some attacks came, Li Zongjio also used his own strength to resist them. He even chose to compete with his opponent in terms of strength. The battle between the two sides could be said to be quite heroic. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the sky was falling and the earth was rending. At this moment, the 5 people who had released the tiger tally were completely stunned when they saw this scene. They stared at each other with eyes wide open. The shock in their eyes was simply indescribable. It turned out that when they had fought Li Zongjio just now, it was entirely because the latter had shown mercy. Otherwise, with such combat power, they could have been taken down easily. They might have even been beaten to death. At this moment, they even wanted to summon the tiger-headed warlord back and escape as soon as possible. Now that the tiger-headed warlord could not take down Li Zongjio, if Li Zongjio freed himself and defeated the tiger-headed warlord, they would have to deal with him next. Faced with Li Zongjio's terrifying combat power, how long could they resist him? Bam! Li Zongjio's small and skinny body immediately knocked the tiger-headed warlord to the ground. At the same time, his punch also caused the tiger-headed warlord to explode instantly. The tiger-headed warlord turned into a wave of depraved power and returned to the tiger tally. This was considered a defeat. If they wanted to reactivate the tiger-headed warlord, they would have to inject a large amount of soul beans into the tiger tally. However, this was no longer a matter of the tiger-headed warlord, but of their own lives. Chapter 1626. The tiger-headed warlord that they had been relying on, the fierce general of the fallen clan, had been destroyed by Li Zongjio with a single punch. Therefore, the 5 of them had already realized how powerful Li Zongjio was. This tiger tally is not bad. It can be exchanged for a life. Li Zongjio said indifferently. He waved his hand. 2 unparalleled swords appeared. The unparalleled swords instantly condensed and moved. The threatening power released from the unparalleled swords was also quite strong. They were directly aimed at the 5 people in front of him. Judging from the strength that Li Zongjio had shown just now, it was indeed not difficult for him to kill the 5 of them. At this moment, Li Zongjio's words were already very obvious. If they used the tiger tally in their hands to exchange for a life, only one of them would not die. However, the rest of them could still be killed by Li Zongjio. Therefore, these people all became nervous. They looked at each other. One of them threw the tiger tally in his hand out. Li Zongjio caught the tiger tally in his hand. He felt the power that permeated from it. It was indeed the aura of the fallen clan. The familiar fallen clan obviously existed in the macro world as well. Even the history of the Shingwu continent was not worth mentioning in the macro world. The two were not on the same level at all. It was precisely because of his familiarity with the fallen clan and the tiger-headed warlord summoned by the tiger tally that Li Zongjio also kept it with him. It should be something that the other party used to save his life. Now, in order to save his life, he had no choice but to hand it over. This was equivalent to taking a gamble. If Li Zongjio took all their weapons and then came to kill them, they would accept it. They only hoped that Li Zongjio would keep his promise. "You can go." Li Zongjio pointed at the person who threw the tiger tally and said, "We have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Lord, please let us go. This tiger tally is a token of respect." That person did not leave. Instead, he looked at Li Zongjio. At least there was still room for negotiation. Therefore, he was also thinking if he could fight for a chance. Saving his life was the most important thing. "Sure, you can live as long as you take out something to pay for your life." Li Zongjio said. If he killed these people, he would only be able to obtain a few soul beans. Everything they had on them would disappear. Sometimes, some strong-willed people would rather die than hand over their things. Most of them were afraid of death. If there was a chance, they would rather Li Zongjio spare their lives. They exchanged glances with each other. It seemed to be trying to escape. However, no one could guarantee that Li Zongjio didn't have the strength to kill them all. Although it was possible that he wouldn't kill them, it was also very likely that he would. This made them very worried. Even if there was a slight possibility, they didn't dare to take the risk. If they weren't careful, they would die immediately. Who would be willing to take this risk? It was better to hand over their things obediently and beg Li Zongjio to spare their lives. As long as it wasn't a bloodthirsty person, such experts would let them live. This was because even if you were strong today, you might meet someone stronger than you in the future. No matter who was here, they were not free to do as they wished. Therefore, if they left a way out today, it might be helpful tomorrow. However, it was hard to say what kind of person they would meet. It all depended on luck. At least to the 5 of them, Li Zongjio was a rational person. I'm willing to hand over all the demons I've killed to Lord, in exchange for the lives of the remaining 4. The leader plucked up his courage and said. He even wanted to make such a deal because he wanted to take a gamble. This thing can be transferred? Li Zongjio asked curiously. The person he was asking was Hong Long, who was beside him. Yes, it can be transferred. As long as the other party's signatories agree, it can be transferred. Hong Long explained. How many did you kill? Li Zongjio asked. If you only killed 1 or 2, why would I make a deal with you? 58. The leader of the group said. He didn't try to hide anything. After all, this thing couldn't be deceived. Li Zongjio was slightly surprised. How could they kill so many? He only killed slightly more than 30. These people actually killed more than 50. However, when there were more people, teamwork was indeed more advantageous. Li Zongjio needed to kill them one by one. However, this small team could kill a few in an instant. Indeed, they needed a team to be able to do it so easily. Li Zongjio was also thinking that he should recruit some subordinates. Otherwise, how long would it take for him to earn enough soul beans to increase his strength if he was alone? 58. I'll allow you to change 3 people. Pick one of them to die. Li Zongjio said. Originally, attacking Li Zongjio would lead to certain death. Even Li Zongjio could complete it. If he didn't care about these things and directly killed you, what could you do? Although Li Zongjio wouldn't get anything, you would lose everything. It was obvious who would be at a disadvantage. Moreover, according to what Li Zongjio said, they did not have a choice either. They weren't even allowed to refuse. Otherwise, only death awaited them. The other party was also very clear. Although Li Zongjio looked amiable, just from the aura when he beat up the tiger-headed warlord, they knew that Li Zongjio was definitely not a kind person. He wasn't someone that ordinary people could withstand. He could easily crush your head. Sir, please give us a chance. Let us gather 80 demons and offer them to you. The other party gritted his teeth and said. This was a very excessive request. It was even equivalent to challenging Li Zongjio's bottom line. Li Zongjio clearly didn't look like a fool. If he gave them a chance to subdue demons, wouldn't that be giving them a chance to escape? Oh, sure, leave your soul imprints here. Gather 80 demons and I'll release all of you. Li Zongjio said. Collecting soul imprints was something that Li Zongjio could do easily. Their expressions changed slightly. If they gave their soul imprints to Li Zongjio, it was equivalent to becoming Li Zongjio's slave. Unless they knew a secret technique that allowed them to directly cut off their soul. In that case, it was equivalent to sacrificing their cultivation to achieve such a goal. This was also a very good method for them. After all, they still had a way to survive. Coincidentally, there were some among them who knew this secret technique, which allowed them to part with their souls. But it was a pity. This was a very good idea. If Li Zongjio didn't have the soul-splitting ring, he really wouldn't have been able to discover it. But now that these people had handed over their soul imprints, Li Zongjio had placed them on the soul-splitting ring. In an instant, these people's souls were all bound. Unless you completely erased your own soul. In that way, they would be able to gain freedom and not be controlled by Li Zongjio. But this was equivalent to death. There was nothing to say. Chapter 1627. Their original plan was to sacrifice a little of their soul energy to deceive Li Zongjio. However, this method did not seem to work. After their soul imprints were taken away by Li Zongjio, they seemed to have been placed in an extremely mysterious place. This thing used a powerful force to connect the souls of the 5 of them through the soul bridge. In an instant, this force was born. The expressions of the 5 changed. Oh no, our souls! This Dharma treasure has such an effect. Li Zongjio was also surprised to discover that this soul distraction ring seemed to have an effect. In order to refine one's own great Tao incarnation, one did not need to cultivate slowly. Instead, one needed to directly seize the souls of others and integrate them into the soul distraction ring. Through the soul distraction ring's refinement, it would condense into Li Zongjio's soul energy. Li Zongjio could not use this soul energy. However, he could use this soul energy to directly condense a great Tao incarnation. This method could save Li Zongjio a lot of trouble. Li Zongjio also liked this function very much. Looks like your little tricks are not working. I'll give you 3 days. If you can't complete it in 3 days, I'll directly take your souls. Li Zongjio sneered. What were these people thinking? How could he not know that these tricks were left behind by him in the past? Young people nowadays had not improved at all. The 5 of them were sullen because they could already feel that their soul energy had been completely controlled by Li Zongjio. This should not have happened. It was all because Li Zongjio had such a Dharma treasure in his hands. Therefore, these people had no way to resist. They had fallen into Li Zongjio's trap. Li Zongjio and Hong Long left immediately. There were still more than 20 fiendish demons left. He could just leave them all to these people. Towards the end, the number of demonic beasts decreased. It would take a lot of time and effort to snatch these demonic beasts away. Li Zongjio and Yi Zichen left immediately. However, there were 5 people in the remaining elite team. They all looked at each other in dismay. He has a magical treasure in his hand that completely sealed our soul power. The malnourished man among the 5 said. He really couldn't be blamed for something like this. Who would have thought that Li Zongjio would possess such a treasure? What should we do now? What else can we do? We've lost this time. However, this person doesn't look like someone who would burn the bridge after crossing the river. Let's gather the demons first. When it came to this, everyone couldn't help but sigh. This was truly the legendary case of losing the bride and losing the army after the hatchet. This kind of heaven-defying loss wasn't something that just anyone could do. Li Zongjio took Hong Long and casually found a relatively remote and quiet place to rest for a while. Just these few days of hunting fiendish demons had already made Li Zongjio feel a little tired. This place wasn't as good as the Shungu continent. The consumption of energy was also completely different. The consumption was even greater than in the lower realms. If we want to create a guild, do we have to follow some rules and restrictions? Li Zongjio asked. Hong Long nodded. Of course, if you want to obtain a guild creation token, you have to go through the Tower of Trials. There's a chance you'll get a guild creation token. Of course, you can also buy it with soul beans. However, I heard that a guild creation token costs at least 50,000 soul beans. 50,000 soul beans. Li Zongjio sucked in a breath of cold air. He could only exchange for a few thousand soul beans for a single pill. A mere guild creation token cost 50,000 soul beans. It was truly too expensive. Not only do you need a guild creation token, but you also need a place to establish your guild. Once you have a guild creation token, you can recruit guild members and collect guild fees from them. As long as your guild develops well, you'll be able to make a lot of money. Li Zongjio finally understood. With a guild creation token, one wouldn't have to worry about food or clothing. In fact, one wouldn't even need to earn money. As long as the guild members were all present, or even more so, one would be able to collect a considerable amount of guild fees. Just these soul beans would be enough to feed one. This was a chance to quickly make a fortune. Therefore, Li Zongjio was very interested. Then if I get a guild creation token, can I sell it? Li Zongjio suddenly thought. Of course you can. Many people are buying it, Hong Long said. Hong Long said, obviously, using the guild building token to generate profits was a very good method. One thing that could be guaranteed was that after you had established a guild, you would be able to obtain the guild building token. Once you established a guild creation token, the guild members would definitely not betray you. They wouldn't stab you in the back. Because of these rules, in this great world where there was no trust at all, a guild creation token was extremely important. The possibility of obtaining a guild creation token from the Tower of Trials was simply too low. Therefore, Li Zongjio needed to use other methods to obtain a guild creation token. If he sold the distraction ring, he would probably be able to get 10 or so guild creation tokens. However, Li Zongjio wouldn't do such a stupid thing. The stray soul ring could create a great Dao incarnation for Li Zongjio. With this Dao avatar, it could immediately give Li Zongjio an extra life. Who wouldn't want such a benefit? In fact, he even felt like he was cultivating twice as fast. If he placed this Dao avatar in a spiritual pool to cultivate, when he succeeded in cultivating, he could merge the two into one. This would allow Li Zongjio to obtain great power. Originally, this power could only be obtained after reaching the Lord of Heaven realm. However, Li Zongjio had obtained it and obtained this power in advance. This was a good opportunity. Li Zongjio would definitely not let it go. Just as Li Zongjio and Hong Long were resting in the mountains, suddenly, two figures landed in front of them. They seemed to be fighting, one chasing and the other escaping. "Where are you running to, you little devil? How dare you kill my guild members? I will definitely kill you." The one being chased was a girl in black. Hearing the words of the person behind her, the girl in black turned around and sneered. "A group of lustful people. So what if I killed them? What can you do?" The girl in black said arrogantly. Li Zongjio looked at the scene in front of him and thought of a plan. "Can I just snatch the guild creation token?" Chapter 1628. Could they snatch it? Speaking of this question, there were indeed people who had studied it. Generally speaking, they could not snatch it. This was because the guild creation token could only be used once. Since the faction had already been established, it meant that the guild creation token had already been used. In theory, it should have been used up. However, the daily maintenance of the faction required the guild creation token. Of course, the token itself would not be called the guild creation token, but something else. But there was a way. After establishing the faction leader would be replaced. In a faction, the faction leader usually had the highest authority. Basically, whatever he said was law. Therefore, it was difficult for the people in the faction to usurp the position. Unless they worked with outsiders to kill the faction leader, then the second faction leader, who was the deputy faction leader, would automatically become the official faction leader. After becoming the official faction leader, the position of the faction leader would be clear. There was also a situation where an outsider could directly kill the guild master and force him to hand over the position of guild master. In this case, the outsider could directly own a guild and wouldn't need a guild establishment token or something like that. They just needed to sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. Of course, this was a good idea. Being able to become the leader of a gang, he definitely did not have an undeserved reputation. If you could directly defeat the faction leader and force him to hand over the position of the faction leader to you, why would you need to do this? It was not difficult to get a guild creation token. Therefore, in general, this kind of behavior was relatively rare. If you had no other way, you could just take care of the faction leader immediately. The entire gang will come to deal with you. When the time comes, you'll know what it means to have no place for me in this vast world. After listening to Hong Long's explanation, Li Zongjio nodded. It did make some sense when he put it that way. Originally, he wanted to simply snatch the guild creation token from the faction and use it directly. This would save him a lot of trouble. For Li Zongjio to defeat the faction and take the position of the faction leader, it would be a very complicated matter. There were too many uncertainties. Therefore, Li Zongjio thought that it would be better to just buy a piece. It would save him a lot of trouble. You call yourself the leader of the Green Gang with that level of cultivation? You can't even catch me. The black-clothed demoness in front also turned around and mocked the people behind her. But Li Zongjio? He saw it. The woman in black was going to be in big trouble. The other party had already set up a trap and was just waiting for the woman in black to jump into it. However, Li Zongjio heard something that piqued his interest. How strong is this Qin gang? Li Zongjio asked. Hong Long seemed to be searching his mind for any information regarding the Qin gang. Soon, he recalled everything that was related to it. Qin gang is a newly established gang. It's ranked in the top 50, and it doesn't seem to have a lot of manpower. Honglong said. Then let's start with the Qin gang. They're all here anyway. Li Zongjio thought. Then he followed them carefully. He no longer cared about the matter of hunting magical beasts. In any case, there was an elite team that hunted magical beasts for him. Naturally, he was very relaxed. When the time came, he could directly obtain the number of magical beasts killed by these people and easily obtain the rewards. As for sympathizing with them, they should spare some? There was no need for that. Although they wanted to rob Li Zongjio, after having been out for so long, Li Zongjio had never been at a disadvantage. It was already a great blessing to be able to keep their lives. What else did they want? The woman in black suddenly realized that something was wrong. There seemed to be some strange elemental energy fluctuations around her. All of a sudden, the black-clothed woman crashed into a wall of elemental energy and bounced back. Not good. The woman in black's eyes suddenly revealed a trace of horror. She saw 3 figures appear in front of her, blocking her way. At the same time, a few extremely hidden nets appeared in the void. Sky net. The woman in black's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. The cost of making this sky net was not cheap. The other party must have wanted to take her down by making this thing. Moreover, it took a certain amount of time to set up this sky net. It could only be said that the other party had already set up this trap and was waiting for her to come. That's right, this is the sky net. Your freedom movement is very powerful, but in front of this sky net, you have no chance to escape. In fact, the leader of the Qin gang had already had a chance to catch up with the woman in black. But even if he caught up with her, it would be very difficult to catch her with such a skillful freedom movement. Instead, she would seize the opportunity to escape again. Therefore, he had been waiting here for an opportunity. Through the gang's order, he had sent out the message in advance so that they could be prepared first. Now, he had finally forced the other party into this trap. You guys actually used such a trick on a weak woman like me. The woman in black was obviously very angry. But at the same time, she was also looking for an opportunity to escape. But now that she was surrounded by 4 people, it was harder to escape than climbing the sky. You demoness, you killed more than 20 people of the Qin gang, and you have the nerve to call yourself a weak woman. If you obediently hand over the Freedom Movement secret manual, I can consider sparing your life, the leader of the Qin gang said. Of course, this was nonsense. Once you handed over the Freedom Movement secret manual, you would have no value to speak of. If the other party wanted to kill you, it would be a piece of cake. Even a child would not be fooled. However, the woman in black had a pitiful look in her eyes. She looked at the leader of the Qin gang in front of her. Is what you said true? My carefree body movement technique is in this spiritual pearl. Release the inescapable net first, then I will give you the spiritual pearl. The woman in black said. After releasing the sky net, she would be able to use her freedom movement secret manual more easily. She would be able to move freely between heaven and earth in an instant. Then it would be harder to catch her. But the other party was not a fool. He would not let her go just because she said so. Of course, he would not let her go. The leader of the Qin gang shook his head. Give me the Freedom Movement secret manual first. After I see it clearly, I will let you go. I swear in the name of the leader of the Qin gang. You should believe me now, right? Otherwise, you can only take your Freedom Movement secret manual with you and go to Wuji. Chapter 1629. The words of the leader of the Qin gang were 30% incitement and 70% threat. He was clearly telling her that she had no choice. If she dared to say anything, there would be nothing left to say. He would just kill her. She was talking so much nonsense. She definitely didn't have any good intentions. I'll definitely kill you. Otherwise, if I let you go, you will definitely become a threat in the future. The best way to deal with you is to get rid of you right now. All right then. I hope you can keep your promise. The girl in black said weakly. At the same time, she threw the spiritual pearl in her hand to the leader of the Qin gang. The leader of the Qin gang was already full of smiles. Once he got his hands on this thing, he would definitely gain great strength. The carefree body technique. In this world, it could at least be ranked in the top 100 body techniques. Who wouldn't want such a top-notch body technique? Whether it was killing or escaping, it was second to none. Everyone wanted to get it. Originally, the leader of the Qin gang didn't have a share of such a treasure. However, he was lucky. Who would have thought that he would meet this girl in the wilderness? Since she had mastered the legendary carefree body technique, of course, he had to take this girl down. The latter happened to be looking for the demon group. However, it seemed that she didn't live in the main city of Red Soul. Otherwise, she definitely wouldn't have dared to kill so many people of the Qin gang. Just as he was about to grab the spiritual bead suddenly shook and turned into 3 rays of light. With the appearance of these 3 rays of light, a terrifying explosion instantly attacked. When this wave of spiritual energy hit him, he didn't even have time to react. It directly blasted the leader of the Qin gang away. Leader! The subordinates saw that their leader was sneakily attacked by this demoness with a pearl. It's the Ice Blast Pearl. His subordinates also exclaimed one after another. The leader of the Qin gang was instantly hit by the power of frost released by the Ice Blast Pearl. His whole body was frozen. Seeing this, the girl in black instantly turned into a shadow. Her figure quickly turned in the air and rushed towards the 3 people of the Qin gang in the blink of an eye. The 3 people of the Qin gang opened the sky net in their hands. In an instant, they fell towards the girl in black. The surrounding space seemed to have been restricted as well. At the same time, a strong sense of oppression assaulted her, making it difficult for the black-clothed girl to resist this power. Xiao Yao body art. The black-clothed young lady's body seemed to have transformed into thousands of clones. She continued to attack the terrifying net around her. The energy fluctuations in the surroundings suddenly became chaotic. The spatial pressure released by the heavens net was actually shattered by the girl's kick. The inescapable net could form an extremely terrifying pressure that could turn the space around you into a prison. That way, it would be difficult for you to escape from it. In the end, it will directly crush you. However, before this kind of power formed, if they could find the weakest point of the net and rush out, they would at least have a chance of survival. Now, the black-clothed girl's thousands of figures were attacking precisely for this opportunity. When this move appeared, it was filled with countless variations. Boom! Finally, she found the weakest point. Immediately, the black-clothed girl launched an attack at the weakest point of the net. This was because if she did not hurry, the leader of the Qin gang would break through the seal of the Ice Blast Pearl. At that time, with the leader of the Qin gang attacking, it would be a very dangerous matter. She had to dodge. Bang! The weakest point of the inescapable net was kicked away by the black-clothed girl in a row. Finally, she rushed out. Seeing this, the 3 Qin gang experts' faces changed. They did not expect the girl to be so strong. This Xiao Yao body art was really too powerful. Not only did it have such speed, but it also had such a powerful force. It was no wonder that this Xiao Yao body art was ranked in the top 100 in the macro world. In terms of body art, it was definitely very powerful. If it weren't for the fact that the latter's cultivation was only at innate level 7, he would have killed all of them if he had displayed such strength. The black-clothed girl seemed to have consumed a lot of energy. She hurriedly swallowed an elixir and quickly fled into the distance. Bang! At this moment, the leader of the Qin gang finally broke free from the thick layer of frost. Set up the array and kill her. Don't leave her alive. At this moment, the leader of the Qin gang understood that it was almost impossible to get the girl to hand over the item. Since that was the case, he might as well kill her directly to avoid any more trouble. He did not care at all whether he could get the Xiao Yao body art or not. It was his fortune to get this item, but it was his fate to lose it. It was better than this demoness coming to find him in the future and then killing everyone in the Qin gang. Therefore, this order was quite clear. They had to take the girl's life. The black-clothed girl knew that things were not good. Once these people had the intention to kill, it would be really difficult to escape. Boom! 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 3 of the Green Gang's experts unleashed their sword chi, instantly surrounding the ladder. The black-clothed girl did not have any chance to escape. She did not have enough strength. After all, the 3 Qin Gang experts were all at level 7 innate realm. The leader of the Qin gang was at level 8 innate realm. The difference in strength was too great. It was hard to resist. The black-clothed girl was hit by a ray of sword chi. She could no longer run and fell to the ground with a boom. It was too horrible to look at. Fortunately, she was wearing an inner armor with good defense. Otherwise, the sword chi just now would have pierced through the black-clothed girl's stomach. Li Zongjio, who was far away, naturally heard these people's conversation. At the same time, he also knew that the black-clothed girl seemed to have something amazing in her hands. That was why she was met with such an unexpected disaster. He was also very curious as to what kind of treasure it was. The black-clothed girl was once again surrounded by a few rays of sword chi. Her body was also severely injured. It was hard to escape. Only at this moment did the black-clothed girl's heart finally give up. This time she had really gone too far. Azure Skyfang's sword chi. The leader of the Qin gang had extremely strong combat strength. Otherwise, he would not have become the leader of the Qin gang. Just the gang establishment token alone was worth a lot of money. Therefore, to be able to establish a gang, his strength was naturally not simple. It was naturally difficult for the black-clothed girl to withstand the sword chi. But just as the sword was about to fall, a figure suddenly rushed out and blocked the sword chi. Only a back view could be seen. Holding a sword with one hand, it blocked all of the sword chi from earlier. Chapter 1630. Li Zongjio held his sword with one hand and smashed the opponent's sword chi to pieces. He stood in front of the girl in black. So handsome. When the black-clothed girl saw Li Zongjio in front of her, her eyes suddenly lit up. It was mainly because Li Zongjio had appeared and saved her. Otherwise, the black-clothed girl wouldn't have cared about Li Zongjio. She treated him as a passerby. Who are you? How dare you work for the Qin gang? When the other party saw Li Zongjio appear and another Qing Yaojin, they immediately confronted Li Zongjio and Hong Long. Originally, a black-clothed girl was already enough to make them flustered. They did not expect another top expert to appear. They could not help but be vigilant. Hong Long did not need to appear. He could just hide in the distance. Even if he came out, he would only be courting death. Sorry to disturb you. Either you hand over your gang or you die. Li Zongjio held his sword with one hand and pointed it at the leader of the Qin gang. Immediately, the leader of the Qin gang was stunned. Then he burst into laughter. Haha, did I hear wrong? Are you asking me to hand over the position of the leader? The Qin gang's eyes were filled with mockery. They were mocking Li Zongjio for overestimating himself. If the position of the leader could be taken down so easily, he would not need to be the leader. You can take care of the other three? Li Zongjio said to the girl in black behind him. The girl in black was stunned. Ah, you can't handle it alone? You want me to take action? The girl in black did not expect Li Zongjio to not have many trump cards. Did he want her to fight with him? Since he wanted to be the hero to save the damsel in distress, he should have just made a move and killed them all. Now, he even needed her to make a move. It was simply too embarrassing. She did not even want to talk to Li Zongjio. However, there was nothing he could do about it. Luckily, there was such a mysterious helper. If he refused to help, he would definitely be hunted down by the Qin gang. I can only hold on for 15 minutes. It's impossible to kill them, but I still have the ability to escape. The black-clothed girl said. Li Zongjio also admired the black-clothed girl's face. It was as if it was a matter of course for him to take action now. But since there was something to talk about, it was fine. Then let's switch. You block this one, and I'll kill the other three. Li Zongjio said. The black-clothed girl thought for a while and finally nodded. Her free movement technique was easier to deal with when facing a person. At the very least, she still had a great chance. It would be troublesome if there were too many of them. The two of you are truly condescending. When the four members of the Qin gang saw Li Zongjio and the black-clothed girl discussing how to deal with them in front of them, they were shocked. They did not take them seriously at all. Obviously, this Li Zongjio was too arrogant. I'll let you have a taste of my green sky fang sword. The three of you, form a battle formation and skin that brat for me. The leader of the Qin gang said. Since they were so arrogant, he would let them have a good look at the true strength of the Qin gang. They definitely lived up to their reputation. In the future, the Qin gang would definitely become one of the top 10 gangs in the Scarlet Spirit City. Yes, leader. The three of them were the backbone of the Qin gang. Naturally, they would listen to the leader's orders. After the leader gave the order, they did not hesitate and resolutely carried it out. The three of them directly rushed towards Li Zongjio. However, Li Zongjio also rushed towards the three of them. The three of them were all innate level 7, about the same strength as Li Zongjio. Now that they exploded, they formed 3 terrifying auras and surrounded Li Zongjio. Sword formation. In addition, when the members of the gang fought together, they would be in a state of fighting strength. Therefore, at this moment, when the three of them joined forces, they were at least equivalent to an innate level 9 expert. Even if it was an innate level 9, they would be able to temporarily suppress them. Li Zongjio did not hesitate and summoned the tiger-headed war general that he had repaired earlier. Li Zongjio's thinking was different from the others. Others might feel sorry for their soul beings and would not be willing to waste them to repair the tiger talisman. In fact, he would only release the tiger tally at the very last moment. Li Zongjio's thinking was naturally different. If he did not use such a good thing, wouldn't it be a waste? Perhaps this tiger-headed war general could bring him more benefits and allow Li Zongjio to recoup his losses in a shorter period of time. Soul beans could be earned back after spending them. However, if this person was gone, it would really be gone. Moreover, these people would run away. When the tiger-headed war general appeared, the atmosphere of the scene changed instantly. The atmosphere was extremely subtle. The 3 experts of the Qin gang were stunned when they saw this. However, the tiger-headed war general was so fierce that it did not even consider why it was here. Its mind was only filled with Li Zongjio's order to tear the people in front of it to shreds. Immediately, the tiger-headed war general's figure rushed out. It blocked 2 of the 3. Li Zongjio rode on his sword. The real unparalleled sword attacked continuously in the form of a sword. Li Zongjio grasped the sword formed by the indefinite ring in his hand and exploded with extremely fierce sword chi. The Qin gang's master was forced to retreat. Originally, the black-clothed girl had thought that it would be better to just run away from the beginning. After all, she was facing the Qin gang's leader alone. If she went all out and paid a small price, she would be able to escape. After all, she did not know if Li Zongjio was really that fierce to be able to block so many people. If this guy was bragging, she would be in trouble. In the end, she would not be able to escape. However, now it seemed that Li Zongjio's strength was not bad. This guy that he had suddenly summoned seemed to be able to fight. She did not have a good impression of the Qin gang. Now that she had the chance, of course, she would teach them a lesson. Hee, you're in for a bad time. My helper is a first-class fighter in Crimson Soul City. Once he starts, he won't stop until he kills all the enemies. The black-clothed girl continued to add oil to the fire. By distracting the Qin gang's leader, she would have more opportunities to delay more time so that Li Zongjio could get rid of the 3 people quickly. Then, they would join forces to deal with the Qin gang's leader? This problem would be easier to solve. Do you think you can live until then? Feng's sword. Chapter 1631. He raised his hand and a green sword appeared in his hand, accompanied by a murderous aura. You actually have a demonic weapon. When the black-clothed woman saw the cyan sword, her eyes flashed with a trace of shock. Mainly because of the Fang sword. The terrifying aura released from it was a demonic weapon. Immediately, the woman in black's eyes were filled with fear. A demonic weapon was similar to an immortal weapon, but in some aspects, a demonic weapon was more powerful and harder to resist. Hey, this guy has a demonic weapon. Hurry up and kill them to help me. The woman in black was naturally frightened. She didn't expect this guy to hide so well. If he was hit by the magic weapon, the injury would probably be irreparable. At that time, he would directly die. No one wanted to die just like that. Facing the leader of Qin gang who had a demonic weapon? The woman in black didn't dare to be careless anymore. he displayed his free and unfettered body art. She reached a very mysterious state. Everywhere in the sky, there were shadows of the latter. But in reality, there was not a single real body among these shadows. This was the special ability of the Xiao Yao body art. Otherwise, how could she, Du Xiaojia, rely on this move to roam the Jianghu for so long? Li Zongjio took the time to look back. This so-called demonic weapon was indeed emitting a terrifying aura. It looked like a good thing. Li Zongjio was also thinking in his heart that he had to get his hands on this good item. Even if he didn't use it, he could sell it in the future and exchange it for soul beans. This would be a good income. How dare you be distracted when fighting with me? The Qin gang's master was instantly displeased. You arrogant fellow, how dare you disregard my existence like this? One must know that he also wanted to save face. Who knew that Li Zongjio dared to ignore him? He was a level 7 and 8. But Li Zongjio really didn't care about him. Unparalleled sword. The unparalleled sword, which had been hiding its power all this time, suddenly exploded with a terrifying power. It directly blasted the person in front of him, causing the latter to retreat. Even the latter was astonished by the sudden increase in power. He had not expected such a situation to occur. He was a little flustered. Li Zongjio also took advantage of the situation and threw out the sword in his hand. At the same time, he suddenly closed in on his opponent and threw a punch. It directly broke the latter's elemental energy defense with ease. Boom! When the elemental energy defense was shattered, the two peerless swords chopped off the elemental energy from the elemental energy defense. Shua shua! The sword chi landed. This person didn't even have time to react when his arms were chopped off. When he did, his mouth was wide open in shock. No! My hand! My hand! With a panicked roar, Li Zongjio punched again, and the latter's head was directly smashed. This person didn't seem to have any treasures in his hands. Therefore, this punch completely ended the latter's life. Li Zongjio was better at close combat. Now that he had used his full strength, it could be said that he thought highly of him. Using a sword was just a cover for Li Zongjio's strength. It was to make it convenient for him to launch a surprise attack at such a time. After all, in such an unfamiliar environment, it would be too stupid to explode his full strength. He waved his hand and collected all the soul beans that the latter had dropped. At the same time, he quickly rushed toward the other two. The tiger-headed warrior was indeed a brave warrior of the fallen tribe. His strength was several times stronger than the termite demon queen. If Li Zongjio had met this guy back then, the entire sacred martial realm would have been destroyed. If an expert like the Black Sea Lord refused to take action, it would be troublesome. The entire world would be killed by the fallen tribe. Of course, if the fallen tribe had such strength, they wouldn't have been hunted down by the ape tribe. Speaking of the Black Sea Lord, Li Zongjio even suspected that the Black Sea Lord had come to this great world. Otherwise, it would be extremely difficult to break through to the celestial realm in the lower realm. In fact, it was simply impossible because of the age of the medicinal ingredients. There was simply no way to have enough medicinal ingredients to concoct a better medicinal pill. There was also no stronger cultivation system. Even the inheritance of the demon clan might not have the ability to break through to the celestial realm. At most, it would be lingering in the innate realm. It was extremely difficult to break through to the celestial realm. Even Li Zongjio hadn't found a way to break through to the celestial realm after coming to this great world. He could only take one step at a time. He had to take the position of the faction leader first. Li Zongjio quickly displayed his strength again and killed the remaining two. Once again, he received close to 30 soul beans. However, it seemed that the tiger-headed warlord had overexerted himself. Li Zongjio didn't hesitate to put the soul beans he had just received into the tiger tally. Immediately, the tiger-headed warlord's strength was restored. It was more useful than a human. Why do I feel that this guy can still be upgraded? Li Zongjio looked at the tiger-headed warlord, who was full of fighting spirit, and suddenly had a premonition. He could clearly feel it. It was obvious that this wasn't the tiger-headed warlord's limit. If there were enough soul beans, it could help the tiger-headed warlord continue to improve its strength. It could at least reach the peak of the innate realm. This made Li Zongjio an unexpected discovery and gain. The group of people from before probably didn't have enough soul beans to improve the tiger-headed warlord's strength. However, Li Zongjio wouldn't waste such a good opportunity. However, the most important thing now was to get rid of the Green Gang's faction leader. He saw that 3 of his faction's core members had been killed. Even the Green Gang's faction leader couldn't take down the woman in black. At this moment, Li Zongjio had freed up his hands. This made the Green Gang's faction leader stunned. Immediately, a trace of anxiety flashed across his eyes. He wanted to escape at this moment. Unfortunately, it was too late. Li Zongjio commanded the 2 swords and the tiger-headed warlord to attack. He didn't even talk nonsense. He attacked as soon as he got close. Boom! Powerful origin energy fluctuations pierced through the entire area. Fanged Ghost. A ray of light appeared around the Green Gang's faction leader. Then, he threw out the sword in his hand. Instantly, the sword in his hand transformed into a fanged ghost. It had a green face and fangs. It was quite ferocious. Li Zongjio directly plucked the aura from the fanged ghost. Then, it merged into the indefinite ring. Change. The unparalleled sword in his hand instantly transformed into a fanged sword. Chapter 1632. In Li Zongjio's hand, there was actually an identical fang sword. And it could exert the same effect. It had the same momentum. Li Zongjio was just giving it a try. After all, the fang sword seemed to be a real demonic weapon. It was on the same level as an immortal weapon. Even the unparalleled sword was only a half-step immortal weapon, not a real immortal weapon. Now, Li Zongjio easily copied the fang sword. Not only was Li Zongjio surprised, but the leader of the Qin gang also widened his eyes when he saw this scene. How can it be? How can you have the fang sword? The leader of the Qin gang exclaimed. However, Fang Ghost was able to tell the difference between the real deal and the fake one. He immediately reached out and slapped Li Zongjio. The girl in black was also quite surprised when she saw the fang sword in Li Zongjio's hand. She didn't expect Li Zongjio to have so many tricks up his sleeve. After all, Li Zongjio's tricks were endless and quite powerful. Li Zongjio also activated the fang sword in his hand, and the fang ghost in it burst out instantly. The 2 fang ghosts collided directly. With a boom, the aura vibrated and spread out continuously. The fang ghosts kept colliding with each other. The movement of the battle was also earth-shattering. It has almost reached the celestial realm. This thing is so powerful. When he saw the leader of the Qin gang use the fang sword, he thought that the power of the fang sword was just ordinary. But now, after the fanged ghost's strength erupted, they could clearly feel how terrifying the fang sword's strength was. Obviously, the leader of the Qin gang didn't have enough strength to release the full power of the fang sword. That was why such a situation happened. When the 2 fang ghosts fought, Li Zongjio didn't waste any time and opportunity. He directly attacked the leader of the Qin gang with the tiger-headed warrior. After all, the indefinite ring was a duplicate of the same item, so it was hard to say when the other party would beat it to the point where it would be exposed. Therefore, at this time, he must seize the opportunity to kill the person in front of him. The tiger-headed warrior swung the twin hammers in his hands. He smashed them toward the leader of the Qin gang's chest. With a loud bang, even the power that spread out from the collision had a kind of power that could destroy the sky, and it continued to vibrate continuously. The leader of the Qin gang retreated rapidly. Was directly knocked back by the opponent. Green Mountain Tactics, fighting under the clear sky, magic arsenal. The leader of the Qin gang saw the strength of Li Zongjio and the tiger-headed warrior. In addition, there was a girl in black who was eyeing him covetously. If he didn't use some magic treasures, there was no way he could defeat Li Zongjio. At the same time, the leader of the Qin gang had already felt the pressure from Li Zongjio. Immediately, a series of green beans flew out from the latter's sleeves. These green beans bounced a few times in the air, and then directly transformed into the appearance of the leader of the Qin gang, and appeared in front of Li Zongjio and the others. He directly activated the magic art and blasted toward Li Zongjio. Buddha's palm. Li Zongjio struck out with his palm, and the power in front of him exploded one after another. This leader of the Qin gang has a lot of treasures in his hands. Li Zongjio couldn't help but exclaim. Even the leader of the Qin gang was so difficult to deal with. If it was the leader of the Heavenly Fiend Alliance, he would be even more difficult to deal with. Therefore, Li Zongjio couldn't be too careless. Otherwise, he might really be taken care of by the other party. The girl in black also joined the battle. She kicked the figures formed by the green beans into pieces. Bang, bang, bang. I'll deal with these doppelgangers. You go and deal with him. The girl in black said. Li Zongjio didn't hesitate at all. Under such circumstances, he directly left the battle circle and charged toward the leader of the Qin gang again. The unparalleled sword in his hand, surrounded by the power of ice and fire, easily pushed back the figures in front of him. Once again, he broke through the defense of the doppelgangers and came in front of the leader of the Qin gang. What? Seeing Li Zongjio come out, the leader of the Qin gang's face suddenly changed. The joint attack with the tiger-headed warrior seriously injured the leader of the Qin gang directly. The leader of the Qin gang fell from the sky to the ground. Li Zongjio also fell from the sky. With one punch he broke one of the leader of the Qin gang's legs. The unparalleled sword was placed on the leader's neck. The cold, bone-piercing power of the sword made the leader of the Qin gang's face become filled with fear. You, who exactly are you? Such a top expert suddenly appeared. This person's strength was definitely not simple. How could it be such a coincidence that he met such an expert? He couldn't believe that this was a coincidence. Someone must have deliberately arranged this. Otherwise, how could such a situation occur? I'll give you 10 breaths of time to consider. Either you hand over the leader's position or you die. Li Zongjio said indifferently. There was also a clear iciness in his eyes. He was clearly saying that he would not show any mercy to them. If he didn't agree, he wouldn't waste any more time and would kill him. Let's talk nicely. I can give you whatever you want. I can give you 100,000 soul beans as long as you give me time. The leader of the Qin gang said hurriedly. However, Li Zongjio didn't seem to be moved. He just stared at the leader of the Qin gang with a cold gaze. Do you know who I am? Commander Mi Shi of the Red Soul City is my uncle. In a moment of desperation, the leader of the Qin gang wanted to reveal his identity. At the very least, he wanted to use this to threaten the latter. If he took the leader's position, his uncle would definitely come looking for him. After all, he wouldn't have such a good chance to escape. It wasn't something that he could escape from just because he wanted to. As a commander of the Red Soul City, he had absolute strength. This wasn't a joke. He could easily deal with him. 2. Li Zongjio raised the unparalleled sword in his hand. He was about to descend and chop off the leader's head. He didn't care about the consequences. As long as he got the leader's position, he could talk about the rest later. Commanders were amazing. If they dared to block Li Zongjio's path, they would be killed in one strike. What could you do? You were just so arrogant. There was no need to care too much about other things. If other factors could easily influence your decision, it would be difficult for you to succeed. In that case, it will be difficult for you to succeed. You won't even be able to do the simplest thing well. Therefore, if you wanted to do something well, you had to be completely focused and single-minded. Stop, I'll hand it over. Chapter 1633. The unparalleled sword was already pressed against the man's windpipe, and the surface of his skin was already cut open. In this way, the man in front of him felt a real threat. An aura of death involuntarily emerged from his body. If he had not spoken in time, Li Zongjio would have stabbed him with his sword. There was no room for regret. He broke out in a cold sweat. In this macro world, anything could happen and happen. Therefore, he did not doubt that Li Zongjio would kill him. After all, Li Zongjio did not look like he was afraid. Finally, the leader of the Qin gang took out a gang token. He erased the mark on it and handed it to Li Zongjio. I'll give you the token and you'll spare my life? The guild building token. This was the legendary guild-building token. Hong Long had described to Li Zongjio what the guild-building token looked like. Li Zongjio received the guild establishment token without any expression on his face. He didn't seem to be very excited either. It was his emotionless expression that made Hong Long feel uneasy. He could not even imagine the background of Li Zongjio in front of him. He could only blame himself for being unlucky. He did not bring more people with him when he came out. Usually, after becoming the leader, he would hide in his gang's base to cultivate. After all, if there was any fighting, he only needed to send his subordinates out. He could hide safely in the city, cultivate, and gain benefits. Why not do such a good thing? However, he had just established the Qin gang not long ago. When he heard that there were benefits to be gained, he came over. He did not expect to be killed by the girl in black. This made him very unhappy. Later, he found that the girl in black had the legendary carefree body movement. He was even more greedy and wanted to obtain the free and unfettered movement technique. The final outcome was obvious. It just so happened that it fell into Li Zongjio's hands. Even if Li Zongjio was being polite, he wouldn't let you off so easily, so he snatched your guild establishment token. When Li Zongjio engraved his mind imprint on it, some additional information suddenly appeared in his mind. He was even able to see it in an extremely specific manner. Looking at the additional information in front of his eyes. Gang members. Gang activity. In addition to the contribution points of the gang members, there was also a column for hatred points. In this hatred point, there was also some recorded information. They were all enemies who had killed members of the Qin gang. The black-clothed girl was among them. Li Zongjio was supposed to be one too. However, now that Li Zongjio had become the leader of the Qin gang, the hatred from before had disappeared. Du Xiaojia was now ranked first. That was the black-clothed woman in front of him. This thing is quite useful. The existence of the guild establishment token really surprised Li Zongjio. He even understood and felt clearly that this was the power of the macro world. It was the creativity of a heavenly emperor-tier powerhouse. It was so terrifying. All these things appeared because of the will of the heavenly emperor-tier powerhouse. Anything could appear this way just because he wanted it to be this way. It was unbelievable. Everything was just the will of the great emperor of the Xian Tian sect. Okay, I'm a man of my word. Li Zongjio said. The latter used his own essence energy to reattach that broken leg of his. Li Zongjio got his guild establishment token as he wished. He took over the entire Qin gang. Young man, don't blame me for not reminding you. The establishment of this gang is not my power. You've provoked a group of people you can't afford to provoke. After the leader of the Qin gang finished speaking, he immediately left. He summoned his Fang sword over. At the same time, his figure quickly disappeared into the sky. If you continue to stay here, Li Zongjio might suddenly have a murderous intent and kill you directly. What can you do? Let him go just like that. The black-clothed woman said angrily. She just watched him escape. Thinking of how arrogant he was before, the black-clothed woman was quite angry. I've already gotten what I wanted. Li Zongjio said. He was not a homicidal maniac. Sometimes, when he was unhappy with you, he might kill you directly. But sometimes, as long as he achieved his goal, there was no need to kill so many people. When your strength reached a certain level, you would have no enemies. Just like Li Zongjio, if he returned to the Shengwu continent, he would not have any enemies to speak of. In this macro world, enemies would always exist. You might even be targeted without even knowing it. Moreover, after killing you, soul beans would appear. These soul beans were the most direct benefits. Although it was a bit wasteful, some people liked it this way, and some people were forced to do it. Anything could happen. Li Zongjio did it according to his heart. If it was necessary, he would kill the other party. But Du Xiaojia was a bit unhappy. After all, this person wanted to kill her just now. If she had not been lucky, she would not have had the chance to escape. Of course, it was also because Li Zongjio had helped. If Li Zongjio had not helped her, she would have been in a lot of trouble. You actually robbed a gang just like that? Amazing. Isn't the gang fun? Do you want me to be the deputy leader? Du Xiaojia saw that Li Zongjio was a bit interesting. Moreover, Li Zongjio was her savior. He had a lot of secrets. Sure, but you have to hand over your carefree body technique. Li Zongjio said. There could only be one deputy leader. If Li Zongjio died now, Du Xiaojia would directly become the leader. There was a reason why Li Zongjio did not kill the Qin gang leader just now. It was because of this. If the guild-building token had an emergency mechanism, after the original leader died and the guild-building token changed hands, it would directly lock onto the deputy leader and erase the effect of the guild-building token in Li Zongjio's hands. Instead, it would be used on the deputy leader. Li Zongjio's efforts would have been in vain. Hearing that Li Zongjio was also thinking about her carefree body technique, Du Xiaojia immediately took a step back. Du Xiaojia took 2 steps back vigilantly. Don't even think about snatching my free and unfettered body art. I still have very powerful people above me, and my luck has always been very good. Chapter 1634. Li Zongjio originally wanted to snatch it. However, to Li Zongjio, it didn't matter if he had it or not. Hence, Li Zongjio didn't care about it. If he bought it, it wouldn't be too expensive. Hence, he didn't force it. However, the guild creation token was different. The guild creation tablet was worth 500,000 soul beans. The benefits it could bring were uncountable. Hence, Li Zongjio had to snatch it. Even if he had to kill some people, he had to do it. However, for the carefree Dharma body, Li Zongjio was indeed very interested as he watched. However, one had to know that this thing was only ranked in the top 100. Hence, Li Zongjio wasn't very interested in its value. If this thing could reach the top 10, he wouldn't hesitate to kill Du Xiaojia in front of him. Otherwise, you'll have to take the initiative to hand it over. Otherwise, death was the only way out for them. Li Zongjio had always done things simply. Your movement technique is only ranked in the top 100. I'm not very interested. Li Zongjio waved his hand and said, if he could obtain this huge Qin gang, for Li Zongjio, it would be a great tool to increase his strength. He had to study this thing properly. Du Xiaojia also glanced left and right. I didn't expect you to be so arrogant. How about this, I'll be friends with you. My name is Du Xiaojia. You can call me Miss Du. Du Xiaojia said generously. She actually extended her hand to Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio naturally wouldn't be stingy. He shook her hand. Li Zongjio. There was nothing wrong with telling her his name. If you have any problems in the future, come find me in Spirit Void City. It's not fun here. I'll leave first. Du Xiaojia didn't plan to stay here for long. After all, there were dangers all around. It was better to leave this place first. Li Zongjio did not stop him. Spirit Void City? It was probably one of the main cities, but he didn't know how strong it was compared to the Crimson Soul City. When Hong Long saw the other party leave, he quickly showed himself and came to Li Zongjio. How is it? Done? Hong Long was also pleasantly surprised. At the very least, he had seen Li Zongjio snatch the token from the other party's body. Done. Do you want to join? Li Zongjio looked at Hong Long and said. Hong Long did not expect Li Zongjio to invite him to join the faction. He was so excited that he did not know what to do. Do I have the chance? Hong Long said. How do I add this in? Li Zongjio didn't seem to understand how to use the guild establishment token. You just need to let the members drip a drop of blood on the guild establishment token. Hong Long said. Then, he dripped a drop of blood on the guild establishment token. Immediately, a wave of energy came from the guild establishment token. In Li Zongjio's mind, information about Hong Long appeared. Of course, it was just some basic information about his strength and contribution. He couldn't see anything else. After all, this was a faction, not some strange machine. Promote him to the deputy faction leader. Li Zongjio held the guild establishment token in his hand and used his mind to control it. Suddenly, a ray of light came from the guild establishment token and landed on Hong Long's body. Hong Long was flattered. He didn't expect Li Zongjio to give him the position of deputy faction leader directly. What kind of honor was this? He had never experienced such trust between people before. If ordinary people wanted to join a faction, they would have to pay a price. At the very least, they would have to pay a fee to join the faction. With a faction, ordinary people would not dare to bully you. However, it was not easy to join a faction. It was impossible to join just because you wanted to. The position of deputy faction leader also had more power. He could command the members of the faction and take the initiative to recruit members. It was considered that he had gained a part of the authority to manage the faction. It was considered a high position. If one could gain a part of the authority in such a position, how powerful would he be and how convenient it would be? Of course, it also depended on how he used it. Moreover, the position of deputy gang leader required a person who was very trustworthy to be qualified for it. Li Zongjio didn't care. As long as the person was trustworthy enough, it was fine. It didn't matter if the person was powerful or not. Anyway, he was the strongest in the faction. This was Li Zongjio's thought. He wouldn't waste too much time thinking about these things. "Thank you, faction leader," Hong Long said excitedly. "In the future, I'll leave all the messy matters in the faction to you," Li Zongjio said. He naturally didn't have the time to care about these matters. Therefore he let Hong Long do it. Anyway, Hong Long seemed to be good in this aspect. It would be easier to leave it to him. By the way, the girl just said that she was from the Spirit Void City. Where is the Spirit Void City? Li Zongjio didn't know much about the situation in the macro world. When Li Zongjio said the words, Spirit Void City, Hong Long was stunned. Hong Long paused for a moment, as if he had been bitten, or as if he had bumped into the tree. His entire body froze. "You mean the Spirit Void City? Hong Long?" he asked Li Zongjio in shock. Yes. Li Zongjio was sure that he didn't hear it wrong. Besides, he couldn't have made up a name. Spirit Void City, it's real? Hong Long muttered to himself. He seemed to be in endless shock. Being slapped by the shocking waves again and again? He was completely dumbfounded by the slap. Is this place very special? In the entire limitless True Flame world, there are 5 main cities, but in reality, there are only 6. This 6th main city is also a legendary existence. It is said that in this main city, even the weakest one has the strength of the celestial realm. Li Zongjio understood when he heard this. So much foreshadowing. The 6th main city was the Spirit Void City. It was just that no one knew where the Spirit Void City was. But looking at the guy in front of him, he understood that the Spirit Void City was not a legend. It was just a legend in the eyes of ordinary people. When you have enough strength to come in contact with these things, you can really master these legendary things. Those who were once high and mighty will also appear in front of you. Everything will no longer be a legend. It seems that I have to go to the Spirit Void City if I have the chance. Everyone is in the celestial realm, which means that there are stronger existences. There must be good things in it. Chapter 1635. This was something that Li Zongjio did not expect. This little girl actually came from the Spirit Void main city. No wonder she was so confident in escaping from the Qing gang's leader and the other experts. This was indeed something that Li Zongjio did not expect. Otherwise, if he squeezed this little girl dry, he might be able to get other treasures. If I knew this guy would hand over the position of leader so easily, I wouldn't have killed those experts. Li Zongjio regretted killing people. Who knew that the guild-building token would have such a great effect? Why did he have to kill those people? He could have just left them here. He would definitely be able to create some other value. Li Zongjio and Lin Fan left the place. 2 days passed. The elite team that went out to hunt demons finally returned. After all, their soul imprints were in Li Zongjio's hands. Hence, it was not difficult to find Li Zongjio. These people were obviously very tired. After a series of battles, this elite team was already on the verge of collapsing. Now, they were finally done. They just wanted to collect the heads of these demons as soon as possible in exchange for their lives. 5 people appeared in front of Li Zongjio. There were a total of 100 demons on the bounty notice in his hand. Li Zongjio was very satisfied. These people had no choice but to hand over the items to Li Zongjio and complete the transfer of the number of demons on the notice. Now that the number of demons is enough and we have given you the items, please keep your promise, sir. The leader of the other party said bravely. Now it was time to decide life and death. Li Zongjio looked at the nervous faces of these people. I can return your soul imprints to you, Li Zongjio said. Everyone's eyes lit up. However, when he said that, they could not help but feel their hearts tighten. Usually, when someone said this, there must be other conditions. This immediately made everyone nervous. Sure enough, he wouldn't let them off so easily. When they thought of such a situation, although they were already mentally prepared, when such a situation appeared, they were still shocked. They could only accept it. If he couldn't accept it, what else could he do? To die? Although the process of living in such a large world was very painful, who would be willing to accept death? Sometimes, it was just a small step to enter a wonderful world and have a supreme status. Only by living could one have the hope of obtaining everything. Everyone was waiting for Li Zongjio to speak as if they were waiting for a death sentence. If you want to join my gang and work for me, I will return your soul imprints. This way, it won't be considered as breaking our agreement, Li Zongjio said. He was a very trustworthy person. Sometimes, if he said that he wanted your entire family dead, he would kill your entire family. Even if he left a small survivor, it would become a standard for breaking his promise. Join a gang. Everyone looked at Li Zongjio in surprise. You only need to join a gang? You have a gang? These people couldn't believe their ears. They thought that they had heard wrongly. They continued to ask the same question again. That's right. Li Zongjio nodded and said. At the same time, he took out the guild building token. He placed it in front of everyone. After dripping your blood into the gang, your soul will be returned automatically. These 5 people did not disband after going through such a thing, which showed that their cohesiveness was very strong. At least this group of people had something to look forward to. It was very rare to be so united in such an environment in this large world. It just so happened that Li Zongjio couldn't find anyone else to use at the moment, so he recruited all 5 of them. Although there were other people in the gang, Li Zongjio did not know them. How could he command them to do things? It was not easy to manage. At this moment, the man in the lead finally took a step forward and gathered his courage. No matter what, they would die anyway. Now that Li Zongjio had a gang, for idle people like them. Of course, it was a very good thing. They even wanted to join some gangs to protect themselves. But now there was such a good opportunity. Li Zongjio didn't know how difficult it was to set up a gang. As long as you set it up, there would be countless people flocking to join your gang. After the leader of the group joined the gang, the leader of the group became a disciple. Li Zongjio automatically returned his soul imprint. There was also a disadvantage after joining the gang. That was, if you did not get permission, you could not leave the gang. In other words, you had to continue to work for the gang, sharing honor and disgrace. Of course, this was not a big deal for people who joined the gang voluntarily. The restrictions of the gang were not that strong. They only needed to pay tribute on time. The others saw that he had taken back his soul imprint and followed suit. Suddenly, Li Zongjio's gang had 5 new members. Since you are all members of my Qin gang, earn more money in the future, Li Zongjio said. In the Xingwu continent, Li Zongjio was in charge of many forces. Even the largest White Deer mansion was founded by Li Zongjio. But in fact, in terms of management, Li Zongjio did not have any thoughts in this area, so he directly let Hong Long manage it. After joining the gang, Li Zongjio did not continue to keep these people and let them go freely. After that, Li Zongjio also wandered around for a few days. Then he headed towards the Crimson Soul City. At this moment, in the Crimson Soul City, the original leader of the Qin gang had also returned to the main city and quickly reported the matter of the gang establishment token. The report was reported to Commander Mi Shi. Commander Mi Shi was also well known in the Crimson Soul City. He was ruthless and killed people like flax. Because of the cultivation method he cultivated, Commander Mi Shi looked like a stone man. His combat strength was extremely strong. The defense of his physical body alone was equivalent to an immortal armor. If an ordinary person wanted to break through, it was almost impossible. After Commander Mi Shi heard what the leader of the Qin gang said, his eyes darkened slightly. How dare you? Find this person for me. Tell him that I, Mi Shi, am looking for him. Commander Mi Shi laughed like a stone with a crack. In the Crimson Soul City, it was too easy for him to find a person with his authority. He did not expect that someone would dare to mess with him. It was simply courting death. Chapter 1636. In the Mi Shi hall where Commander Mi Shi was. He had a total of 500 Iron Stone soldiers under him. The strength of this group of people could be said to be very strong. At least, it was impossible to find one to fight against their Iron Stone army alone. Soon, Commander Mi Shi had already sent people to find news about the new gang leader of Qin gang. However, this could only be done in secret. When you have this power, you must also shoulder the corresponding responsibility. At the same time, there were some restrictions. For example, if you want to control this gang, you must do it in secret. Using your own means and strength, you must secretly establish this gang and let someone take over this gang. Then, the gang leader who had been promoted would be able to hand over all the benefits to him. This was the benefit of having power. It could easily settle all these matters. It allowed you to reap greater profits. Even people who had the power and the means would do so. Even the city lord of the Crimson Soul City was doing it in the same way, using this method to reap greater profits. He, Commander Mi Shi, had so many soldiers to raise, so the daily consumption was also a very large number. Otherwise, how could he raise such a powerful army? Everything was linked to these things. Now Li Zongjio had touched a piece of Commander Mi Shi's cake. That must be to find Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio and the others were not surprised that someone wanted to deal with him. But it was not easy for these people to deal with him. Li Zongjio did not show up, but asked Hong Long to hand in the demon mission. Li Zongjio was not stupid. There must be someone in Red Soul City who was watching him. But the effect of this gang-building token was, in fact, one way. The gang leader could find the members of Qin gang. But the members of the gang could not locate the gang leader. It was not an easy task to find Li Zongjio in this vast sea of people. Li Zongjio and the others secretly returned to the Crimson Soul City, and at the same time, changed to another inn. Li Zongjio dismissed the members of the elite team on the spot. If there was another mission involving a group of demons, he would summon them again. Every day, Li Zongjio's current setting was to extract 2 soul beans from each gang member. Currently, there were 36 members in Li Zongjio's gang. Every day, he could obtain 72 soul beans. In a month, he would be able to obtain over 2,000 soul beans. This made Li Zongjio very satisfied. Although there weren't many right now, in the future, when the gang grew to over 1,000 or even 10,000 people, how terrifying would the soul beans be? Li Zongjio moved his fingers and calculated. This was indeed a little cool. As for the members of the Qin gang, Li Zongjio had never seen him before, so he did not know him. He did not have much interest in paying attention to these people. Who knew if there would be any trouble left behind from before among these people? Li Zongjio casually found a small, relatively hidden building. This small building was beside a mountain and a river. It was an elegant place. It was called the Mountain Residence Building. It was said that the real owner of this mountain residence was a stunning woman. However, very few people could see her. Usually, it was her subordinates who took care of it. It was considered a quiet place, and many people liked to live in such a place. However, the fees were much more expensive than outside. Just a day alone required a total of 20 soul beans. The mountain residence building had a total of 8 courtyards. They were all independent courtyards, and usually, 2 or 3 families could live in the courtyards. However, Li Zongjio directly booked one of them. How could he allow others to snore next to his bed? If he was targeted by others in such a place, it would be very dangerous. Therefore, Li Zongjio spent 50 soul beans a day to book this one. He should have obtained many things from the Demon Group mission. However, most of Li Zongjio's soul beans had been consumed by Poison Dragon Aotion and the Tiger Tally. He was left with less than 500. In the evening, Hong Long returned. On the way back, he did not dare to believe it. He even looked left and right, trying to be secretive. It wasn't until he returned to Li Zongjio's place that he secretly took out the rewards he had received. What is it? Why are you being so secretive? Li Zongjio looked at Hong Long in front of him. With his sneaky look, those who did not know better would think that he had stolen some treasure. Huff, huff, you should be mentally prepared. Li Zongjio had seen all kinds of situations before. He actually needed to be mentally prepared. He immediately took out the unparalleled sword. If you don't tell me, I'll cut you down immediately. Hong Long shook his head helplessly. Seeing Li Zongjio's lack of emotion, he finally took out all the things he had obtained. When Li Zongjio saw the item, he was stunned. No way. That's right. I didn't expect the city lord to be so generous this time. Hong Long did not seem to expect it either. The demon gang's mission this time was actually able to give out such a great reward. Fortunately, the receiving of these mission rewards was also in a secret state. They were all independent rooms. Unless one's performance was particularly obvious, otherwise, it was impossible to tell what kind of things one had received. Hong Long's expression was also very good. Therefore, he quickly took out the item. When Li Zongjio saw the item in his hand, he was very surprised. Guild building token. Another guild building token. Now that Li Zongjio had a guild, this guild building token was superfluous to Li Zongjio. As long as he sold it, he could get 500,000 soul beans. This item is good. Just sell it, Li Zongjio said. These things didn't seem to be very difficult to obtain. Oh, otherwise, how could he obtain such things in his hands now? It seemed that he was also the son of fate. We can sell it and upgrade the guild. Hong Long said in a low voice. Upgrade the guild? When Li Zongjio heard Hong Long's words, he was stunned. What did he mean? Did he want to upgrade the guild? That's right. Upgrading the guild can increase the maximum number of members. It can even have other functions, such as obtaining the guild's resident rights. Within this resident rights, even the city lord cannot control what happens inside. If anyone from outside the guild walks in, the guild master can use the resident rights to kill them. Hong Long said. Li Zongjio's eyes lit up. He could ignore the other things, but it was still the right to directly kill people. This seemed to be a little satisfying. It was very suitable for him. Is there such a good thing? Li Zongjio did not expect this. Then he looked at his own guild's data. Indeed, it was a grade 1 guild. The number of members could only accommodate 200 people. This meant that there was a limit. A grade 2 guild could accommodate 1,000 people. In the entire Crimson Spirit City, there were only 3 grade 2 guilds. Thousand Moon Sect, Heavenly Fiend Alliance, and the Night Ghost Gang, which was hidden deep and kept a low profile. Chapter 1637. Therefore, if an enemy dared to trespass into the territory of these 3 factions, they could kill you at any time. Even the city lord's influence would not be able to spread here. This would allow the gang's power to grow better, and it would be more effective in deterring others. If a second-grade faction openly recruited, there would be countless people who would want to join. Naturally, its influence would be extraordinary. Li Zongjio did not think that he would be so lucky as to find a new guild creation token and even upgrade it. Then hurry up and upgrade it. How do I upgrade it? Li Zongjio said. It's not that simple. If you want to upgrade this second-grade faction, other than the guild creation token, you need 10,000 soul beans. At the same time, you need to have your own territory. That is, you need to buy a house. Or, you can just rob it. Hong Long had been following Li Zongjio all this time and had seen the outside world. At the same time, he understood that the best way to get what he wanted was to directly rob it. It was the most direct. Do you think I'm a bandit? Do you think I get everything by robbing? Li Zongjio was immediately unhappy. This guy was treating him like a bandit. Sometimes he just didn't want to cause trouble. Since someone else had the item, he would just take care of it. However, Hong Long's suggestion was not impossible. However, if he wanted to rob 10,000 soul beans, it would be a little difficult. After all, who would carry so many soul beans with them at all times. Otherwise, he would have directly robbed the warehouse of this small mountain residence. Then he would definitely be able to obtain a large amount of soul beans. After all, his daily income was in the hundreds. In addition to some other things, he would only need half a month to earn 10,000 soul beans. However, Li Zongjio did some calculations. He did not think that opening an inn would be able to earn so much money. He heard that the owner of this small mountain residence owned more than one inn. If there were hundreds of them, there would be nothing to worry about. Li Zongjio felt it was a pity that he didn't bring Xiao Zhao with him. Otherwise, with Xiao Zhao's mind, he would be able to think of some ways to make money very quickly. Therefore, Li Zongjio could only wait. He would wait for an opportunity to appear and see how he could gather the 10,000 soul beans. After all, he already had a guild establishment token that was worth 500,000 gold coins. Furthermore, he had the backing of an entire gang. Although there weren't many people, they were still able to easily obtain these soul beans. Put this thing aside for now. Are there any other rewards? If the reward was something good, he might be able to sell it for a good price. Since there was such an opportunity, of course, he would not waste it. He was also rewarded with 1,500 soul beans. They're all here. Hong Long handed over everything without concealing anything. So petty? Li Zongjio almost had the urge to overturn the city lord's mansion. Wasn't there supposed to be a generous reward? But now, he was only given such a small amount of things. What use could these things have? Be content. This is already considered generous. You haven't seen how stingy the city lord's mansion is. Hong Long said. Clearly, Hong Long knew the city lord's mansion very well. It was already very difficult to obtain soul beans. At least he gave us a guild establishment token. This isn't something that can be obtained so easily. Hong Long comforted Li Zongjio. 1,500. What's the use of these soul beans? I still have to do it myself. Li Zongjio said. Then he looked at Hong Long. How about this? Go and see if there are any suitable missions. I'll cultivate first. Li Zongjio could feel that he was about to touch the barrier of the breakthrough. Therefore, he needed some time to cultivate. Silence. However, in this great world, the improvement of one's strength was indeed very fast. At least Li Zongjio was confident that he could break through to the celestial realm within half a year. In the Xingwu continent, there was still a doppelganger that was ready to explode at any time. At least in this period of time, the doppelganger's strength would continue to grow rapidly. Therefore, he couldn't underestimate it. He couldn't ignore it either. He glanced at his time funnel. It had already been a month since he arrived here. Time passed really quickly. It's only been a month. It's not bad to have such a breakthrough. Li Zongjio thought to himself. At least his current state had improved quite well. If he wanted to break through so quickly in the Xingwu continent, he naturally wouldn't have such an opportunity. Therefore, Li Zongjio didn't reject this great world. In fact, he was already familiar with such a dangerous environment. Okay, I'll go look for it. Hong Long exited the small mountain residence. That was to wait in the main hall and see if there were any suitable missions that appeared. Li Zongjio meditated in front of the mountains and rivers. The effects of the 100 Calamity elixir were still vivid in his mind. In addition to the recent battle experience, he had integrated all of it into his body. He began to gradually improve his strength. Gradually, he touched the barrier of innate level 8. Li Zongjio also tried to concentrate his strength and directly break through the barrier. However, it didn't seem to be very effective. He lacked the strength to break through the barrier. Soon, Li Zongjio also picked up the soul bean in his hand. This thing is really the spring of power. Li Zongjio directly crushed the soul bean and absorbed the power into his body. Boom! Immediately, a storm of power formed in Li Zongjio's body. Soon, this power rushed directly to Li Zongjio's barrier. That terrifying commotion instantly broke through the barrier around his body. The entire mountain residence was filled with Li Zongjio's powerful strength. Coincidentally, in the depths of the mountain residence, there was a small bamboo house in the dense forest. When it felt this power, it immediately raised its head. The power of innate level 8? I didn't expect that my little mountain dwelling would be a cultivation treasure ground. In the bamboo forest residence, two beautiful figures sat at the table drinking tea and chatting. When they felt the power, they smiled. Sister's mountain residence was built with the 8 gates heavenly mystery formation. Even if you don't know anything, living here will be very beneficial. If you know how to use the power of the 8 gates heavenly mystery formation, the benefits will be enormous. It's a pity that there are too few experts who know about formations. Although there are many books on formations, there are very few who are talented. My 8 gates heavenly mystery formation has been covered in dust for a long time. Just as the woman in green shook her head and sighed. Suddenly, an extremely familiar fluctuation quietly appeared here. Moreover, it also became lively. Instantly, a trace of shock appeared in the eyes of the woman in green. Chapter 1638. The mountain residence was originally a place where the lady in green experimented with arrays. He wanted to apply all the formations that he had learned. So she used this wooden house to form an 8 gates heavenly Xian array. However, no one had been able to activate the power of the 8 gates heavenly Xian array since the mountain residence was built. This array was of a higher level, so it was hidden deeper. It would be difficult for an ordinary person to find this array and activate it. She did not expect to meet someone who could discover the secret of this 8 gates heavenly Xian array today. This person was Li Zongjio. When Li Zongjio discovered this formation, he was also shocked. This was because he was amazed by who had placed such an exquisite formation in this place. This 8 gates heavenly Xian array was of a rather high level. It was at least level 11. Therefore, Li Zongjio himself spent a lot of time to find a way to activate this array formation and directly activate it. Boom! Although he did not know who set up the 8 gates heavenly Xian array here, Li Zongjio needed it now. He could make use of the power of this array to consolidate his cultivation at Xiantian level 8. Li Zongjio activated the Heaven Void God form record. Li Zongjio himself was very surprised by the gradual decrease in power. He absorbed the terrifying spiritual qi. Finally, Li Zongjio stabilized this power at innate level 8. Furthermore, he was able to clearly sense how powerful his strength had become after his breakthrough. This is incredible. Li Zongjio thought to himself. If it was not for this 8 gates heavenly Xian array, Li Zongjio would have to consume a large amount of soul beans to stabilize his cultivation. Otherwise, this power would fall back quickly, which was equivalent to a failed breakthrough. Fortunately, he succeeded. However, this 8 gates heavenly Xian array seems to be lacking a little. When Li Zongjio tried to absorb the power of this array, he almost destroyed the 8 gates heavenly Xian array. The power that suddenly surged out was too strong. However, the structure of this 8 gates heavenly Xian array was not that sturdy and complete. Therefore, when the power was activated to a certain extent, the entire array would be in a state of collapse. It was clear that the people who had set up this formation back then weren't very skilled at it either. Li Zongjio's mind power surged into the array disk of the 8 gates heavenly Xian array. Soon, they found a few places that were specially set up to create such power. Li Zongjio quickly changed some of the feng shui positions. The 8 gates profound heaven formation directly integrated everything in the surroundings into the formation. It borrowed the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth to activate them. Therefore, Li Zongjio only needed to transfer a few things to make a move. Sister? He's modifying your array. Beside the green-clothed lady, a purple-clothed young lady's eyes were also filled with shock. She never thought that this person would be so bold. Wasn't this showing off in front of an expert? One had to know that her elder sister was the #1 array master in this Crimson Soul City. This person was simply too arrogant and conceited. In the eyes of this array master, it would be seen as a provocation. Shoo, the lady in green signaled the latter to keep quiet. The 8 gates heavenly Xian array was an early work. She was very clear about the flaws it had. However, he had never been able to modify it. She only treated it as a kind of appreciation for her own work. Therefore, this thing had always been there. She did not expect this person to activate this array just now. He found the weakness of the array so quickly. Water gate, stone gate, forest gate, bamboo gate, mountain gate, dragon gate, chi gate. Heaven gate? He grasped it so accurately. This person's foundation is very good. Not only that, his talent is also very high. The latter said in surprise. Under this adjustment, Li Zhongjio also strengthened these few weak points. It reached the true state of endless growth. The 8 gates heavenly Xian array. However, the lady in green smiled slightly and her mental strength suddenly surged. In the side of the courtyard, a blazing fire suddenly burned. In this way, it directly joined the fire gate among the 8 gates. When the fire gate appeared, Li Zhongjio also realized that there was an expert around. Perhaps the person who set up the 8 gates heavenly Xian array had joined the fire gate? It would cause the 8 gates heavenly Xian array to attack each other and create chaos. The other party made a move to test Li Zhongjio's strength. However, Li Zhongjio was just casually interested. He was not here to play games with you. If you want to cause such destruction, then do as you please. He, Li Zhongjio, still had a lot of things to do. Therefore, Li Zhongjio did not care about the sudden addition of the fire gate. It was obvious that there was going to be a problem. However, Li Zhongjio still did not make a move. The lady in green in the bamboo forest suddenly shouted angrily. This guy actually did not make a move. This angered the lady in green. In an instant, the flame was extinguished. I didn't expect this person to be so arrogant. The lady in green obviously did not expect that Li Zhongjio, a mere innate level 8, could be so arrogant. Even the sky human realm was not as arrogant as you. He really did not know how to appreciate favors. Originally, she wanted to promote Li Zhongjio. She thought that Li Zhongjio would be a very interesting person. However, who would have thought that in the end, things would turn out like this? Li Zhongjio completely ignored her. This made the latter very surprised. In this red spirit city, no one dared to treat her with such an attitude. I didn't expect that there would actually be someone who could anger elder sister to this extent. If this person knew elder sister's name, his intestines would probably turn green with regret. Such a good opportunity, yet he couldn't grasp it. How bad is this person's luck? The purple-clothed girl said with a smile. Let's leave it to fate. The lady in green said indifferently. In another 2 months, we will be recruiting new people. Recently in this city, are there any rising stars? I have also been to the training tower to look for them recently. However, they are only a bunch of boorish people who fight and kill. They can't be considered rising stars. If we can't find anyone with talent, then what about the next Spirit Void Heaven? It's going to be a failure. What's a mere Spirit Void Heaven? With Elder Sister here, even if they went to Spirit Void Heaven, they might not be a match for Elder Sister. Chapter 1639. This time, the storm of changing the array had passed. Li Zhongjio did not delve too deeply into the matter to find out what was going on. The other party had also extinguished the flame. In the next few days, Hong Long continuously looked for strange missions. However, these missions did not catch Li Zhongjio's attention. He directly rejected all these missions. He also did not care about these 10,000 soul beans. Right now, the Qin Gang's members had not reached the upper limit. Hence, they were not in a hurry to upgrade the gang. They had to slowly wait for an opportunity. Afterwards, Li Zhongjio also sorted out his cultivation. At the same time, he discovered that the effects of the evil dragon's eye could be felt even more deeply in this great world. In my opinion, this evil dragon's eye originally belonged to this place. Li Zhongjio also discovered the special characteristics of the evil dragon's eye. In the world of the evil dragon's eye, one could revive without limit. In other places, this was impossible. However, in the world of the evil dragon's eye, it could be easily done. This kind of power, and even this kind of setting, was very familiar to the entire great world. The rules were all set. Hence, the evil dragon's eye in his hand was similar. But how was it brought down? However, Li Zongjio did not know how effective it would be. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. In this month, Li Zongjio did not move around much. Instead, he focused on cultivating. The surrounding spirit qi was also very dense. It was very helpful for cultivation. Li Zongjio's cultivation had also stabilized at innate level 8. Normally, he would try to concoct some pills. It was because he was concocting these pills. This allowed Li Zongjio's alchemy skills to improve even more. Hong Long also tried his best to recruit members during this period of time. Now, the Qing gang had more than 100 people. For many people, being able to join a gang was already a dream come true. At the very least, there would be someone to protect them. There was a gang, and everyone supported each other, even though the gang leader had never shown his face. However, this didn't hinder the development of the Qing gang. Li Zongjio received over 200 soul beans every day, which was a pretty decent income. Ao Tian's injuries had also recovered. After recuperating for the past few days, he had also grown a lot stronger. Moreover, in this small mountain residence, they ate well, slept well, and did not have to worry about food and clothing. Therefore, under such circumstances, they quickly gained weight. On this day, Ao Tian wanted to go out for a walk and take a stroll. He couldn't be trapped in this small mountain house forever. Anyway, he had Li Zongjio's protection. He didn't expect Li Zongjio to raise his cultivation to such a level in such a short time. It was truly shocking. Ao Tian had only gone out for half a day, and he actually sent a distress signal to Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio, who was cultivating, immediately widened his eyes when he received the signal. He stared in Ao Tian's direction, revealing a trace of darkness in his eyes. Ao Tian has been captured. Hong Long hurriedly came in front of Li Zongjio. Should we call for reinforcements? We have over 100 people in the Qing gang. As long as we give the order, over 100 people will immediately charge out. As the vice faction leader, Hong Long still had the right to give orders. However, Li Zongjio waved his hand. If they could defeat Ao Tian, innate level 9 was enough. However, if they wanted to capture Ao Tian, they would need to be at least in the heaven realm. Therefore, even if all the people in the Qing gang were added together, they wouldn't be able to deliver this head. No matter how many people went, they would just be sending themselves to their deaths. Only when Li Zongjio personally made a trip could he investigate this matter clearly. He definitely couldn't let the other party be too arrogant. Although Li Zongjio hadn't faced a heaven realm expert before, so what if you were in the heaven realm? Anyone who dared to touch Li Zongjio's men would be regarded as a provocation. Li Zongjio's figure flashed. He leaped towards the sky. Hong Long looked at Li Zongjio's departing figure and couldn't help but flash a trace of worry in his eyes. He didn't know what Li Zongjio's situation was like. Under normal circumstances, Li Zongjio would also ask Hong Long to come along. After all, some situations and information could only be understood from Hong Long. However, this time, he didn't have the intention to ask Hong Long. Obviously, this matter had now reached a very awkward moment. Hong Long's heart was also very worried. Li Zongjio's figure swept past the Crimson Soul City. The other party deliberately lured Li Zongjio out of the city. At least 500 miles away. Close to this place was a surging river. The river was fierce, as if countless wild beasts were fiercely running. But the surroundings were silent. Finally, Li Zongjio's figure landed. Nearby, there was some aura left behind by Ao Tian. Obviously, Ao Tian was active here before. I'm already here. Since you're in the heaven realm, why do you need to be sneaky? Li Zongjio said indifferently. It seemed like he was talking to the air, but also seemed to be talking to himself. It was strange to see them like this. But after Li Zongjio's voice fell. Above the river in front, a water curtain gushed out. The water curtain spread out. In front of his eyes, he could see that Ao Tian was trapped under this water prison. He was also seriously injured and was on the verge of death. Seeing this scene, Li Zongjio's eyes changed slightly. Even though Ao Tian himself was rather unrestrained and unrestrained. But at least he was someone who had an agreement with Li Zongjio. since they had already made an agreement. Then to Li Zongjio, he was one of them. You trust me, I'll help you. He treated Ao Tian as his own companion. Now that he saw his companion being beaten up like this, how could Li Zongjio not be angry? You're quite capable. I worked so hard to catch the poison dragon, but you actually snatched it away. A voice came from the other side of the river. The other party was obviously more careful, and they were also worried about what kind of expert Li Zongjio would be. But when they saw Li Zongjio, they couldn't help but feel that they were making a big fuss. They didn't expect the other party to be such a brat. A mere innate level 8? And he managed to trick his poison dragon away. With your strength, you were able to break the transcendental chains. I believe you must have a celestial artifact in your hands. Hand it over, and I'll give you a quick death. Li Zongjio also saw the other party's figure clearly. He was wearing a green robe, and his face was yellow and emaciated. But from his eyes, he could tell that this person's appearance was that of a young man. He couldn't be too old. You want it? Take it yourself. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.